to have all of you here with us today to celebrate the startup ecosystem and to discuss the future of startups. As you all know, the startup ecosystem is constantly changing, evolving, and adapting with new technology, new markets, and new challenges every single day. But what remains constant is the need for great ideas, the importance of hard work, and the power of collaboration. So today at the Startup Sphere 2023, we keep all of that in mind and try to understand the startup ecosystem a little bit better by learning from some of the brightest minds of the startup industry. We'll hear from founders, experts, and investors who will share their insights on how to grow, start, and scale a successful business. We'll discuss a wide range of topics from cross-border collaboration to Make in India as an initiative and how that's helping us grow, and also a panel discussion later of the day on finance content creation and how that's helping startups grow in the country. I'm very sure you'll find the event super insightful and helpful. I also urge all of you to network with your fellow entrepreneurs while you're here at the event. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, kickstarting the event, first of all, our first topic for the day is cross-border collaborations to access global markets. For that, can you please have CA Prasanna Kumar D, Central Council Member, ICAI, who's also a senior partner at Sriram Murthy and Company, to come on stage and address us for the welcome. Sir, the stage is yours. I'll call. Okay, I'm calling the guest on stage now. As I say the guest name, can you please be seated on stage? First up, we have CA Nihat Jambusaria, past president ICAI, who has now been appointed as the president of South Asian Federation of Accountants for the year 2023. Can you please have a round of applause for all the guests that are coming on stage? Then we have Mr. Adolfo Garcia Estrada, Counsel at Ministry of Foreign Relations at Mexico. He most recently served as Deputy Consul General of Mexico in Houston, America in 2019. He has also served as the advisor to the Vice Minister of North American Affairs in 2010 and has been a member of Mexican Foreign Services since 2000. Then we have Mr. Sivraj Nandalal, Counselor of Investment and Trade, Consulate of the Republic of Mauritius in Mumbai, and is Head of Department at Economic Development Board, Mauritius. Then we have CA Murtaza Kachwala, Regional Council Member, ICAI, who is also a Managing Director at Probity Firm India member. Last but not the least, we have Regional Council Member, CA Pinky Kedia. She's a Senior Partner at Kedia Singhania and Company. Now that all the guests are now seated, can you all please take a seat? Can we have one more round of applause again? Okay, now that we have our guest, ladies and gentlemen, I request you all to refrain from movement as we started the session already. Okay, yeah. Now we have our guest on stage. Can I now request CA Prasanna Kumar D to come here and address us as the welcome speech and the opening remarks? The stage is yours, sir.
Yeah. Just heading you. Respected dignitaries on the dais and the delegates for today's session. So, good morning to all of you. Today, this is the first session. Anything which is well begun is off done. So, you are all the first time this session you are all attending. So, for the 2 days, paraphernalia that what we are going to have. Today, we have the great stalwarts sitting on the dais who are going to tell us about how to collaborate cross-border. Gone are the days when you have a local market, gone are the days when you have the state market, gone are the days when you have Indian market or the national market, but you have to go abroad. It's a global village, and we have to collaborate with other nations. We have to see that, industry and trade happens throughout the world. Keeping that in view, and not only to access the global markets, and also to see the investment opportunities and how to funding and all, we have got this particular session today. We have stalwarts like the president under whom I have worked a lot, the past president of the Institute of Accountants of India, CA Nehar Jambusaraji, who is also South Asian Federation of Accountants President now. So he's a stalwart professional, and he is the person who has taken the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India to greater heights in administrative setup at all. So I had a long innings with him. A couple of years I worked when he was vice president as also president. Sir, we know your knowledge levels are very high. I know your speaking skills and the focus under which you have to work. So welcome you, sir, for this meeting, sir. Thank you. And we have another speaker, Mr. Adolfo. He is from the Mexican consulate. He's a consul general to Mexico. So, you know, Mexico and India, we've got a lot of similarities. I was there for 5 days in Mexico. Their movement, the culture, and the food they serve, everything is like in India. You don't feel that you are in a foreign country, such a great country, and the people are also very good, same nature what you have. I'm sure the knowledge he has got, he's also stationed in Mumbai, and he knows the Indian culture, he knows what opportunities are there. I'm sure we're going to have a great session. I welcome Mr. Adolfo for this meeting. Yeah. Mr. Sivraj, he's from Mauritius. All of us are aware, Mauritius is the tax haven. So whenever somebody speaks about the investment in India, they route that investment through Mauritius. That is the way the Mauritius, no, I'm just telling you, things have changed. So that's how we know Mauritius initially. So Mauritius is also very closely connected with India. When I was doing my degree in Loyola College, Chennai, so there are only 10 students from Mexico, from Mauritius, who came and studied with us. That's a collaboration. Even his name is also Indian name. He is 5 generations ago. He settled in Mauritius, sir. So he is also from trade and investments. So we welcome you. We are sure that we'll have a lot of benefit from out of your deliberations. And we've got the past chairman of WRC, Murthy, a very good friend of mine. So he's an eventful year we had when he was the chairman of WRC. So we too welcome you. And Pinky, who's, I think, I don't know what color dress she's wearing. I think it appears to be pink color only. So Pinky is there. So she is a very, dynamic regional council member. You're all, lot of experience you have. So you've got a lot of knowledge. I'm sure with the deliberation what you are going to have, your knowledge will get enhanced and it will be a fruitful session today. I welcome all the delegates for this session. Welcome you all. Thank you very much.
Indeed, a warm welcome by Prasanna sir. Thank you so much. Now that we have the event started, can I please have CA Nehar Jambusariya for a special address to the session?
CA Prasanna Kumar D, who was my colleague in the council, and we worked together for 3 years in the last term. Sri Adolfo, Sri Sivraj, CA Murtuza Kanchwala, the past chairman of Western India Regional Council, CA Pinky Kedia, the regional council member, and all the members who are present here. And I suppose there is a mix of persons from startups and a few chartered accountants. Perhaps we will have to continue in this atmosphere, as this hall is not exclusive and it is open from almost all sides. So some noises will keep coming, but let us focus on what we are going to discuss today. In this 1.5 hours, when we have 2 persons, one from Mexico, one from Mauritius, who will tell us what are the cross-border opportunities for startups to explore market in the entire globe, particularly in Mexico and Mauritius, what is the position as of today. But when we have connected this program with startup, let us first very briefly understand what are the startup movements and what is the scenario for startups in our country. And after that, I will come to collaborations. So first, let us look at this. India is a promising investment destination, which everybody knows now. Even in USA, after Prime Minister's visit, so much of response has started coming. And not only US, almost every country of the world after the pandemic is looking at India, and some of them are exploring if they are placed elsewhere in some other country, whether to shift to India and what are the advantages. And we can see, particularly if we look at the broad advantages, the strong economic indicators, whereas many countries in Europe and other parts of the world are facing recession, they are facing number of problems. India perhaps is a leader in leading the world towards revival after the pandemic. And you can see the activities. This is only a startup sphere. And you can see so many people gathered here with a lot of expectations on what are the opportunities for startups. Another is pro investment environment. In India, you have seen in last 2 years the FDI norms were relaxed. And there are many professionals like us who advised RBI and the government that you should relook at the necessity to have FEMA. And you will recall, some of you who are seniors, once upon a time we had FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, and it was considered to be very draconian. To obviate the difficulties which arose out of FERA, it was replaced by FEMA. It was liberalized, but again, over the time, sometimes it is liberalized, sometimes it is tightened, and it is felt that some of the regulations which are still there are not necessary. And government constantly reviews all these constraints which are there in FEMA, and FDI norms are getting more and more relaxed, and that creates pro investment environment in the country. Thirdly, the global integration. India has got recent FTAs with Australia and UAE. Apart from that, there are 13 free trade agreements, PTAs, already signed by the government. There is greater engagement with European Union and United Kingdom. So all these are positive factors for investment in India. Some of the startups would have formed with the foreign investment in their companies, freely coming in most of the sectors, still restrictive in very few of the sectors, which the government is constantly thinking to relax. Apart from this, what I have not incorporated in the slides is the most important factor which people are looking at, particularly the foreign investors, is ease of doing. Perhaps in our country, regulations are so many, and we were somewhere in the range of 164th position in ease of doing business in the country. And at present, we are below 40. So many restrictions have been removed. Government has been senior. I remember during my term at the council, and particularly during the 2 years of pandemic, when constantly the Ministry of Corporate Affairs used to write to the institute that you have a relook at all the compliance requirements in any field, whether it is direct tax, whether it is indirect tax, whether it is company law, and suggest what steps we can remove. But only keep in mind the security and safety of the country. So we should not compromise with the security, and without compromising with security, if we are able to remove many of the restrictions, we are prepared. So that is the atmosphere in the country. This slide is only for viewing. You can see how the growth of startups has happened, and particularly during the current calendar year 2023, it is expected that investment in startups will exceed $180 billion. And that is the speed at which investment in startup is growing. India's unicorn surge, you can see on the right hand side, that we have got the valuation at the end of 2022 of $535 billion of the Indian unicorns, where the investment is more than 1,000 crore. Its valuation is $535 billion. The other advantages are investment ecosystem and startup ecosystem. All those who attended the inauguration session, you would have noticed that last year the startup and MSME journey was conducted by this committee in the country, and 75 countries from one end to another end were covered. And the registration of startups, which was before this journey 1 crore, it rose to 2 crores, it doubled. So that is the efforts that even our institute is putting up. There was no committee on MSME. And friends, let me give you the background that during pandemic, particularly when everything was closed, it was noticed that one after the other, MSMEs were closing down. They did not have any support. At that time, the government approached the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India that you please come up with a formula to survive these dying MSMEs. And our members in all the states in the country, because institute has 168 branches in our country, all the branches, everybody were activated, and they gave various suggestions for reviving MSMEs. And when the pandemic was getting over, we started suggesting to the government as to what steps we must take to encourage startups, because at that time the investment atmosphere, the outlook was so unclear, and everybody was wondering whether after the pandemic the growth will be constant, it will be seesaw type, or it will remain flat for some time and then it will grow. So at that time it was necessary to support, encourage, and give the confidence to the startups. And in 2021, for the first time, we formed a dedicated committee for MSMEs and startup. And today you can see the kind of activity this committee is doing to encourage the startups. And in our country, I think we are third in encouraging startups. We have third largest number of startups in the country today. And we can reach first position if this trend of investment and trend of starting new startups continues. Then funding, we have already discussed. Unicorns position, how they are swelling and expanding. You can see on the right hand side, in different sectors, these unicorns are increasing in number. And there are several schemes that government has come out with, like self-certification, which removes many of the hurdles, tax exemptions for startups, single window clearances, patent protection, which is a very important aspect for foreign investors. If there is no patent protection, they would not come to a country, because most of the products of foreign investors are patent protected, and if that protection is not given by the country, they would not be encouraged. India has started giving that. And now let me come to the topic for today: accessing global market through foreign collaboration. Now, what does collaboration mean? Does it mean only the foreigners should invest in Indian startups? Does that alone amount to collaboration? Particularly during the pandemic, we all realized the power of technology. We started interacting with different countries of the world on internet, on virtual mode, and we realized that collaboration can happen in several fields. It could be community collaboration, it could be network collaboration, and particularly to access global market, this network collaboration will be very important. Cloud collaboration, video collaboration, external collaboration, strategic alliances, and what these collaborations can bring for us. And I would like to suggest, when two consuls are present here, that today collaboration is used reduce competition, coming together, and the concept of co-creation is getting promoted. So the country which has advantage in a particular field, let that country expertise in that field, produce the maximum and sell in the world market. Today, in fact, India is the biggest market. And if you look at world market, if every country keeps producing all those goods and services which they were producing before, there will be lot of competition. Perhaps nobody will gain. Instead of that, create through collaboration win-win situation for everybody. Collaborate for knowledge, collaborate in research, collaborate in networking, finding market for each other, and promote each other's products and services through these collaborations. Collaboration could be through investment in each other also. But before reaching that stage, collaboration can happen in several fields. And these are only a few examples of collaborations. Even within India, when we started interacting on internet and through webinars, we realized that even for accountants, even for startups, even for entrepreneurs, there is scope for collaboration even within the country. So let us explore collaboration today. We have two consuls, one from Mexico, another from Mauritius. Prasannaji rightly put, Mauritius is being seen for years as tax haven, and companies coming to India come through Mauritius. Companies doing outbound, they do it through Mauritius. It is an important destination even today, and Mr. Sivraj will explain to us what are the opportunities lying in Mauritius. Prasannaji said Mexico is just replica of India, or maybe India is replica of Mexico. You don't find any different atmosphere in that country. So let us look at how through collaboration we can create win-win situation, and then we will have one round of discussion also after they speak. So this is the power of collaboration which we are exploring today. And you may also give a number of suggestions as to what you would expect, because we have representations to the government also. In the beginning itself, I mentioned that FEMA has been liberalized over years. There is a talk and expectation going on that like FERA, now FEMA should be scrapped. There should not be regulation of the type of FEMA anymore. So whether it is possible or not, we can see. As I mentioned, the security of the country, security in terms of cyber security, security in terms of security of business has to be looked at before government goes on liberalizing the existing provisions. So with this framework, let us explore possibilities and let us discuss collaborations today and what is lying in the global market for Indian startups, what is lying in Indian market for the startups in the other country. Let us have a look at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Neha sir, for sharing your valuable insights with us. We love the fact that you've spoken about how India is one of the most innovative and dynamic startup hubs in the world for now. Now, to deepen our understanding of the cross border collaborations, we'd like to call on stage the Council at Ministry of Foreign Relations at Mexico, Mr. Adolfo Garcia Estrada, on stage. Can we have a round of applause for the guest now?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will be very brief. I will give a very brief presentation on Mexico startup ecosystem, and I will try to summarize and give you two main messages on why this matters to you and why Mexico and other Latin American countries are relevant for the Indian entrepreneur. So I will start with the first message. Why would you be interested in a country so far away like Mexico? Well, the first thing that you need to know is the location that that Mexico has. As you know, in North America, we have access to free trade agreements with the U.S. and Canada and other countries. There is a very good infrastructure, and in a nutshell, we are in what we could call a geographic sweet spot. What does that mean? We are between North and South America, one, and two, you are a small or medium enterprise of India. You are, for instance, in the service sector. What would you have to what advantage would you have if you were to locate in Mexico? Well, you are very close to your market. You are in the same time zone as the US, for instance. So, number one message is you have to think not only in the Mexican market. The Mexican market is 130 million people. So, of course, compared to India, we are very small, but it's not negligible. We are 130 million persons, but it's not only that. It's also the US market, the Canada market, the Central and South American market. I think that is of interest to the Indian entrepreneur. Of course, we always give, all our good numbers, the macroeconomic stability. That is a given, and I will not, dwell a lot about in this issue, but just to let you know that there are places that have, a good business environment for you to thrive, and Mexico is one of those places. I will give you a very brief overview of our startup ecosystem. Let me tell you that one of the main objectives of Mexico and the Consulate General of Mexico in Mumbai, we just opened shop, by the way, in January this year. And our main remit, our main purpose here is to promote business and especially to promote the link between the Indian and Mexican ecosystems. So, just to give you an idea of how important this is to us, how important you are to Mexico. So, what is in a very brief outlook of the Mexican ecosystem? We were the second largest in Latin America after Brazil, which is a much larger country. We have 9 unicorns. There's been an explosive growth, 2,000% growth in venture investments. And well, Mexico City is very well located in the world rankings for startup companies. Some numbers: the ecosystem value is around 22 billion US dollars. We have a venture capital funding of in excess of 4 billion US dollars in the past years. The median seed round, $500,000, and the time to exit is on average less than the average worldwide, which is around 9-10 years. We have a 7.5 years of median time to exit. Now, I will give you my second message to you, and it has already been said here. And it's not that we also like spicy food, which, by the way, is also something that we share in common. But no, what is the importance of Mexico for what is the relevance of Mexico for an Indian entrepreneur from an Indian perspective? The relevance is that our markets are so alike. The clients that you cater to in India are very similar to the clients that you would cater to in Mexico. And I will give you an example. I was last month in Bangalore. I was visiting a very, very interesting firm called Sun Mobility. They are making very innovative solutions for electromobility. They have this battery swapping system that allows for 2 or 3 wheelers to basically run on batteries all across the city. They have this solution in Bangalore and in Delhi as well. And how it works is that they rent the batteries, and they have swapping stations. So, what? Imagine this service in a place like the U.S. or in a place like Europe. Maybe it's not relevant. Why? Because they don't have a very large share of two or three wheelers in their, economic ecosystem. You go to Mexico, you go to Latin America, all the deliveries are done by two wheelers. Transport by three wheelers is huge also. So these kind of solutions make sense in a place like Mexico, not so in other countries perhaps. Okay, fintech, you have a lot of companies that are focused in tapping into the opportunities that UPI gives you, and and so we're talking about payment systems. We're talking about microcredits. So you tap the technology that you have here in India, and you provide financial services to people that otherwise may not have access to financial services. People that are not, well off, normal people, and they now have access to credit, microcredits, insurance on the spot. I don't know, you name it. And India has a huge expertise in this field. And in Mexico, this is a very promising field. Healthcare also. As you may know, India is a giant in the healthcare business. The number one producer of vaccines, number one producer of medicines, but also health solutions that are, and we are already importing. We are bringing a very innovative treatment for cancer that is developed by a startup here in Mumbai, and for leukemia. And that is very interesting for us. Why? Because you have this technology in the US as well, and in Europe. But you know what is the difference? That Indian technology is 10, 20, 30 times less costly than the average American or European solution. So for us, it makes a lot of sense to have a link with India. This is just a small snapshot of one of the main Mexican startups and unicorns. They are in the financial sector. Kavak is in the used car market. Again, very relevant for countries like us. Also, we think that there is a huge opportunity in the investment part of the startup ecosystem. Why? Because right now, for instance, Mexico, 70% of investment comes from domestic funds. So there's a huge opportunity for investment funds in India to go abroad, to go to Mexico and invest in our companies. So to finalize, what are the opportunities that we see from, between the startup ecosystems, Mexico and India? Well, there are partnerships between like-minded companies. There is expansion for your business to go to a place like Mexico, which with a market that makes a lot of sense to the Indian company. There are investment opportunities. And last but not least, of course, we can learn a lot of our experiences of what you mentioned that in a way we are replicas, our countries are replicas of one another, and in many senses you are right. In terms of economy, in terms of the demographics, India and Mexico are closer than other countries. From India to other countries in the Asia Pacific or in the Pacific. So we have a lot to learn from one another. So thank you, and I invite you to consider Mexico.
distinguished guests on the dais, and also distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the dais. It's a great honor, it's a great opportunity for me to be here. And I would like, first of all, to thank, of course, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for having kindly invited me. So there is Mrs. Namrata and also Mrs. Monica. Thanks for the invitation. And today what we're going to explore is very simple. I mean, we have heard our previous speakers, mainly, I mean, Mr. Prasanna and also Mr. C.A. Nihal and also Mr. Gasha. So in terms of partnership, we're speaking about collaboration, we're speaking about partnership. So you have different parts of the world. You have Mexico on the other side, and then you have Mauritius on this side. So how India, you as startups, you as companies that are looking at opportunities to grow your business, how you can tap into these markets, but also as platforms to penetrate other markets in the region. For example, Mexico, like our colleague mentioned, that you can penetrate North America with your presence in Mexico. Similarly, we will see how Mauritius helps you with that. But I think which is also very important, before we go into that, let's look at quickly the economy of the country of Mauritius. So I'm sure many of you must have traveled to Mauritius. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have been to Mauritius? So we can see that there are a few people who have traveled. So you may be knowing Mauritius as being a destination for tourism, for holiday, for leisure, or for financial services. As C.A. Prasanna mentioned, that tax haven. But it could have been a tax haven in the past where you were not paying any taxes. But after that, things have changed. In 2016, when the treaty was revised, where there is no more the benefit of capital gains. So now you can't classify Mauritius as a tax haven. That's the first thing that we have to understand and we have to know about it. So that's one thing, because today when you're operating in Mauritius, you have to pay that. You have to pay taxes. You have to contribute to the economy. That's one thing. And when we look at the economy of the country today, it's been growing over the years. Stopped growing during the pandemic, where we went down by almost 15%. But last year, after we reopened the economy in October 2021, last year we picked up very nicely in 2022, where the economy grew by 8.7%. Inflation, which was at double digits, is now going down. We are almost at 9% now. And also unemployment, which was very high, is also going down now. Now, interestingly, when we look at the size of the country of Mauritius, I always tell my good friends in India, is that we are 1,000 times smaller than the size of India in terms of its population. So India, you're 130 crore. Mauritius, we are just 13 lakhs. That's the size of the population. So when you look at the population, which is that small, you will ask yourself, what's the interest for me to come there and do business? But when you look at Mauritius as a platform that gives you the opportunity to penetrate other markets, then you will see that Mauritius can be very attractive, can be very interesting for you. And that's how companies have set up in Mauritius and have grown their business over the years, whether they are from India, from South Africa, from France, from China, from other parts of the world as well. So that's about the economy. And when we look at the trajectory, so we became independent 58 years back, that is in 1968. And after that, when you look at the economy, we were only at a GDP of around $400 per month, based mostly on sugarcane cultivation. That was the only main industry. Almost 98% of the industry was based on sugarcane cultivation. We were not even producing the sugar, just cutting the cane, producing molasses and exporting for refining and then importing back our own sugar consumption. That's how the economy was back then. And at that time, the famous economist also put Mauritius as a basket case. But we fought. Our only resource in Mauritius is our own human resources. We don't have any known natural resource. So we fought with the destiny, and then we gradually diversified in terms of bringing manufacturing, import substitution, and then export-led industry, then into services, tourism, financial services, logistics, IT. Financial services has become such a big industry today. Tourism has become such a big industry today. Manufacturing is also such a big industry today. When you look at the composition of the economy today, it's a diversified economy. So we have manufacturing, construction, real estate, wholesale, financial services I mentioned. And when we look at financial services, as I mentioned, we are not a tax haven. That's the first thing. The second most important thing also is in terms of Mauritius being a financial center in the region, which is a leading financial center, cross-border investment is happening in a big way. Over the years, if you look at the cumulative FDI that has come into India since 2000 since the year 2000, you will see that Mauritius has contributed over $160 billion of FDI in Mauritius. So that's how global investors have trust in the jurisdiction, and that's how they are investing in India through the Mauritius IFC. And we have ICT, BPO as another sector, healthcare, knowledge, agro-industry. Even now the film tourism also is picking up very nicely in Mauritius. We have a very interesting scheme in terms of film rebate, whereby company producers who are coming to produce movies in Mauritius, they get a rebate of between 30 up to 40% in their expenses that they are doing in Mauritius. Let's look very quickly at the partnership between the two countries, Mauritius and India. That partnership has been developing over the years. This year, we're celebrating 75 years of diplomatic relationship between the two countries, and that collaboration between the two countries has been ingrained in many sectors, whether it is in the scientific field or education, industry, economy, culture. Everywhere we see that there is some sort of collaboration. It's a people-to-people connect, first of all. That's the most important thing. And when you look at the population of Mauritius, it is a population which consists 70% of Indian origin population. So I myself, I'm of Indian origin. I am a 5th generation born in Mauritius. My forefathers came from India in the year 1986. And I can speak many languages: English, French, Hindi, Bhojpuri, and also the local language, which is Creole. So that's about the the people-to-people connect is there. So when you come to Mauritius, you will feel that you are in another part of India, whether it's in terms of the culture, the language, the food, almost the same. Now, when we look, I mentioned about the financial services, how this has developed, because we have a treaty between India and Mauritius that was signed back in 1982. At that time, nobody knew how this treaty is going to evolve, and it benefited everybody. It benefited India, it benefited Mauritius, it benefited the global investors. And over the years, there has been now sophistication in that industry, in the financial services, when the treaty has been revised in 2016. Prior to that, Mauritius, in terms of the international financial center, it was India-centric. That is, most of the investment was coming into India, that is the FDI. But now this has been diversified, and much of the investment is now also going into Africa. And this is coming from across the globe, including from India. Recently, we have signed what we call the CECPA, which is a Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement between India and Mauritius. Like it was mentioned earlier by CA Nihal, that there are almost 13 to 15 FTAs that India has signed. So India has also signed one with Mauritius. So that's how deep that collaboration, that partnership goes between India and Mauritius. And when we speak of the SECPA, that is a Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement, this is a sort of an FTA that covers 3 main chapters. One is on trade in goods, the second one is on trade in services, and the third one is on general economic cooperation. So that's how it is. And this was signed in February 2021 and became operational in April of the same year. And since then, we see there is a more and more traction in terms of the business happening between the two countries, whether it is in terms of trade in goods or even in terms of the trade in services as well. And when the third chapter, that is the General Economic Cooperation, was signed last year, so that also makes provision to have an Indian special economic zone in Mauritius. So opportunities are opening up more and more, and this is where startups will be finding that there are opportunities across sectors where they can tap into those opportunities and explore these opportunities to grow their business. So trading services, you will see accounting is there, financial services, of course, healthcare, real estate, construction, IT, BPO. So different services are included into trading services. Trading goods, 615 products that can be exported from Mauritius to India, made in Mauritius products. And similarly for export from India, there is a list of 310 products. Now, when we look at the startup ecosystem in Mauritius, so this is an ecosystem that has started recently over 3-4 years back, and now we have more than 200 startups which are based in Mauritius. The regulations are there in place. There is a whole ecosystem that encourages startups, whether it's about local people, local startups, or even foreign companies, foreign ideas coming into Mauritius and setting up in the local startup ecosystem there. So when we look at this, I think what most startups look at are two main points. One is in terms of the financing, how they can access that finance. They have the idea, but they don't have the finance. So how they can access the finance. And second is the market. And here, Mauritius, we have come up with a whole system of support, whether it is from the government side or whether it is from the private sector side. So when it comes to the government side, so we have a sovereign fund like the Mauritius Investment Corporation, so which has a fund of almost 877 CR for funding, which is available in terms of venture capital. So this is there, the Development Bank of Mauritius, which is again a government-owned organization, is also providing financing for ideas that come to Mauritius, and these can be financed. There is a National Innovation and Research Fund. So there are different types of fundings which are available, and also, as I mentioned, from the private side, which is about banks and commercial financing, and also from the VCs. And again, here we see these type of funding which are available. There is a SME partnership fund. There is the possibility for crowdfunding or peer-to-peer lending. And all these, what we're showing you here is these are all in a well-regulated structure that has been put in place. And here it is very interesting to mention that when we speak of the financial services sector of Mauritius, a few years back, we were put into the gray list of the Financial Action Task Force. And this happens, I mean, you see many countries going through that list over the years. So we were put into that list. Immediately, the European Union also put us in their blacklist. So we had to work on our own deficiencies, on our own weaknesses. And after a couple of years, we managed to come out of this gray list or of the blacklist from the EU. And not only that, today, we are proud to say that we are only 1 out of 6 countries in the world that complies with all the 40 recommendations of the FATF, which includes the digital assets, which are the most challenging. And today, when we speak of the financial services, so we have moved into the sophistication of the services. That is, we have products like family office, we have products like wealth management, treasury management. These are traditional ones, but the family office is fairly new. We have the VCC, Virtual Capital Company. We have digital assets. So we have a legislation today in place, which is a VITOS, Virtual Assets Initial Token Offering Services Act, which is there. For example, we know in India, the taxation in terms of the virtual assets is very taxing, very demanding, very high. But in Mauritius, you have the ease in terms of the taxing because you pay only 15%. And if you are a company that is owning income out of Mauritius, so your tax is reduced from 15 to only 3%. So that's how efficient the system is in Mauritius. And the sophistication continues to happen. And there are some schemes in terms of the regulatory support and fiscal support, as I mentioned. There is a R&D tax incentive, the sandbox license. Let us say you have an idea. We don't have the legislation for that. We don't say, no, we can't take you on board, but we allow you to come up with your idea. You start it under the sandbox license, and then after some years, we come up with a proper legislation to legislate that type of activity, and which also benefits you and also the economy at the same time. There is an e-commerce scheme also. So again, some of the schemes which are there, and we have the Mauritius Research and Innovation Council that is running all these schemes today. Again, some of those schemes, as I mentioned, the SME refund scheme, there is an innovation and commercialization schemes, and even schemes for employment for startups. Now, this was from the financing side. When we come to the market, so we also offer you that platform for you to explore the market. I told you Mauritius is very small in terms of the market, only 13 lakh people domestic. However, Mauritius gives you the opportunity to access the regional market of Africa, which is as big as the Indian market. India is 130 crore, but Africa is also 130 crore. So you have on one side India, Mauritius in between, and Africa on the other side. So just imagine operating out of Mauritius and tapping into this market of Africa. I'm speaking only of Africa. How this happens is that, first of all, it can be in terms of the products that you have, physical products, goods, which you manufacture or you add value in Mauritius. It becomes made in Mauritius, and when you export, these products will go duty-free into Africa. That's one. We also have access to the European Union, again duty-free, to UK, again duty-free, to US through the AGOA, again duty-free, to China, to India, and to the whole of Africa, as I mentioned. So all these markets comprise nearly 70% of the world population when you think about exploring and exporting to different parts of the world in an environment where it is easy to do business and where also you get duty-free access. Let's take one simple example. If you are a producer of shirts here in India, garments, shirt, if you want to export that shirt to South Africa, there is a 43% import duty for the shirt made in India to export to South Africa. But the same shirt, when you're producing in Mauritius, it is made in Mauritius. And when you're exporting it to South Africa, duty-free. So immediately you have a 43% import duty advantage. That's one thing. Second thing, when you're producing in Mauritius, the normal corporate tax is 15%, but when you're exporting to other parts of the country, of the world, so your your corporate tax is reduced from 15 to only 3%. So you pay only 3% corporate tax. So you have the import duty benefit, you also have the corporate tax benefits. So these are some of the benefits that the country provides. And we have DTAs with tax treaties with almost more than 22 countries today in Africa. And this gives you another advantage in terms of having your holding company in Mauritius and operating your business in Africa. For startups, you would like to go and explore a destination and start to look at first of all, the environment, the market, and how you can start the business before you even think of investing. So what you can do is you can just go on a long-term visa, basically, which is a premium visa, which is given to you either for a period of 6 months or up to 12 months, which can be renewed. And very interestingly, this premium visa is free of cost. You don't have to pay anything for this visa. You just have to apply online. Your application goes through, and when it is processed and approved, so you just have to get your air ticket and you fly to Mauritius and you start your market study, or you start operating out of there, and then you take it from there. Quickly, a few words about the Economic Development Board, which is the organization that I also represent here in India, is the National Economic Development Agency of Mauritius, operating under the Ministry of Finance. 4 main roles: strategic economic planning, trade and investment promotion, business facilitation, and country branding. So this is the main role of Economic Development Board of Mauritius. It was set up in 2018, fairly young, but it carries over 200 years of main experience, in the sense that it was a merger of 3 main institutions in Mauritius. So we spoke about collaboration, we spoke about a partnership. There is a famous African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, let's go together. So that's the spirit of collaboration that Mauritius brings to you, the spirit of partnership that we want to take you on board and help you succeed and grow your business beyond India and to other parts of the world. I would like to thank you here. We just have an AV which we would like to show you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
The video was indeed beautiful and power packed. Thank you so much, Mr. Nandalal, for sharing your insights with us. We're very sure Mauritius and India will continue or rather expand its collaborative spirit towards each other. Now, ladies and gentlemen, gear up. We are moving towards a more interactive part of the session. We are opening the floor for question and answer round, which will be moderated by CA Nihar Jambusaria. So you have the floor now.
So I think, yeah, I will ask one or two questions. After that, from the audience, if you want to ask any question, you can shoot these questions. We have two guests, and first I may ask Mr. Odolfo that what we could see is prominently in Mexico, three sectors are very much prominent, like healthcare, fintech, and social and services. So, what kind of collaboration opportunity you see, particularly for the Indian startups in Mexico, in terms of either investment, setting up a shop in Mexico, or selling Indian products, including services like technology, AI, which has developed in India very much?
Uh, Hello, hello. Oh, yes. Well, thank you for the question. Well, as I said, I think that India has strengths in some particular areas. And I think that, as you may know, India is a leader, especially in the fintech sector. So the fintech sector in Mexico is one that is really thriving. And let me tell you something. Maybe I mean for you it is a common thing, but for all the foreigners that we arrive in India, the advanced state of your financial system and especially UPI is quite impressive. You know, it's really impressive, and we're talking about. I mean, of course, digital payments exist in other countries, in Mexico, of course, but the scale of the platform that you have here in India is nowhere to be seen, and not certainly in Mexico. And that platform has is a breeding ground for a lot of services that we do not have. Okay, so here in India, you can pay absolutely anything with a mobile phone. And when I say anything, I mean you go to a stall in the street, to a street vendor, and they will have a QR code. You won't see that anywhere else. So startups that tap to that opportunity are of great interest of Mexico for Mexico. The startups, as I mentioned, that provide microcredits and insurance on the spot for people that do not have a credit history, for instance. That is huge for Mexico because the penetration of banking services in Mexico is still very low, because we still have a model based on other financial systems, like in the US, for instance, which is based on the credit card approach. So you have to have a bank account and be trustworthy, credit-worthy, to have a credit card, and then all the rest follows. And that is a system that maybe is not working, will not be working for Mexico. And that's a system that has been, innovated, that has been revolutionized in India. So I think, in particular, that area, access to credit, access to financial services, access to electronic payments, companies that work in those areas are, in my opinion, very, very promising.
Yeah, very impressive. Yeah. So you rightly put it that now in India, if you travel without a wallet and if you simply have mobile phone with you, it's more than enough. and that is what our startups can replicate in Mexico, giving this technology. Uh, in Mauritius, I think your GDP contribution of manufacturing sector, construction, infra, tourism is the maximum. Uh, Indians have their offices and companies in Mauritius, but particularly those who are startups, those who have started in India, how they can use Mauritius route or Mauritius country for the purpose of their further development and penetration into the foreign markets. You gave example of garments that if they are manufactured and sold from Mauritius to Africa, it is duty free. But if it is done from India, it attracts hefty duty in African countries. So, if suppose these garments are manufactured here but routed physically through Mauritius, then also this duty free benefit is available, or they need to manufacture there and then only export.
Yeah, so I took the example of garments, but there are many more than that. It's not only about the garments, it's also engineering products, food stuff, different products. So what happens when we speak of a trade agreement between countries or in a trading bloc, and I'm sure it's the same for NAFTA as well, is that the product has to become made in that country. So for the product to benefit from this duty advantage, it has to be made in Mauritius, which means it can be wholly manufactured in Mauritius from 0 to 100%, or value addition has to happen in Mauritius. It's only then that the product becomes made in Mauritius, and then it can be exported as a Mauritius made product to benefit that duty advantage. If it's from India going to a country in Africa, yes, it can be routed through Mauritius because we do have a logistics platform, the Mauritius Freeport. But then what happens is that the product remains made in India. So when it is going to that country in Africa, the import duty which is available, has to be applied in that country, will be applied because it is from India only. That's a whole purpose of having trade agreements, so that it benefits the region or the countries within that trading bloc. Yeah.
It is an important input for all these startups that you need to have some value add in Mauritius, but then how you can have it, like if major part of manufacturing is done here and then you do some value add in Mauritius, you can look at the laws or there may be some guidance and you can have this duty free delivery to countries like Africa, which can save a lot of cost. So that is how one can plan, but with proper advice. It should not, after all, amount to just simple tax planning or tax event.
Yeah, it's as you rightly say, it's not simple tax planning, but what is very important, we have to take it product specific wise. That is, knowing which product that the startup wants to develop. Then based on that, we can advise accordingly. We can guide how to do it, and then take it from there. Yeah.
Any questions from the audience?
Hi, this is from Mr. Sivraj. Thank you, Adolfo and Sivraj, for the wonderful discussion which we had just now, understanding the traits between the two countries, Mexico and Mauritius. I just wanted to ask, connecting with the same question which Mr. Nihar has asked, pertaining to the fact that the value addition, like, is it defined in terms of whether it has to be like a, and I know I'm asking this and I don't know the law of the land of Mauritius, be it like 25%, 30%, 10%, because I mean, what needs to be that value addition, or there has to be a substantial value addition which is needed for that product to be made in Mauritius, because then this again will become a pass-through entity kind of a status for Mauritius if I have to kind of use this loophole. So yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, so there is a minimum value addition that has to happen, which is 35%. 35%, then it qualifies for made in Mauritius. Yeah, thank you.
That's it.
Yeah. Uh, Thank you for all the insight given by Mr. Swaraj and Mr. Adolf. We are into international trade where we are, 95% we deal into Africa. So the country like East Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, Burundi, Rwanda, even nearby to your place that is Comoros Islands also. So what I wanted to ask, like the company like us, into logistic, into door delivery logistic company, cargo services we are giving. So how we can be, registered in Mauritius, and what all, in terms of financials and everything, can be helpful as an Indian logistic company registered in Mauritius and dealing into Africa, because from last 1 decade we are dealing into Africa, and I have traveled to Mauritius also. Twice I traveled actually. During going to the Comoros and some other Reunion Island also was there. So how Mauritius can help us, the company, Indian company, logistic company like us?
So if you don't mind, we can take it bilaterally, so I can give you details how it works. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, happy morning to all the dignitaries on and off the dais. And first of all, I'd like to thank both of you for the valuable insights that you guys have given for me. I just give my intro as a small intro because since the question which I asked would be useful for you. I am a practicing chartered accountant from down south Tamil Nadu, Coimbatore, and I do practices in two main areas. One is on international taxation, the other one is on startup ecosystem. So far, we have given a good idea about startups, and I am working as a CFO for 4 startups in there in Coimbatore. And I am a mentor for 2 incubation centers there in Coimbatore. One in Coimbatore, the one is Kerala. And the issue what we face up there is there are so many startups up there who are approaching us for funding from like other countries. Apart from India, they need a funding from this. This is one thing. And the other thing is, which you pointed out in Mexico or else in Mauritius, if we start our company up there, if we start our startup company up there, there are some benefits also would be there. And this is a common question to whom we can correctly approach to get all these benefits. It's for both the countries, maybe.
To whom you could approach
Yeah, yeah.
to get the benefits again? Can you repeat the
If I
question?
need,
Yeah?
okay, if I need any funding or if I want an investor to get for my startups, the person who are approaching me, can able to directly connect. So there won't be any intermediaries like that.
Okay, well, that's our primary job. So, like the Consulate General of Mauritius, the Consulate General of Mexico, we are here, as I said, and that is our main focus to promote business and to promote cooperation and soft landing for Indian companies in Mexico and vice versa. So if you are interested in doing business in Mexico, I'm happy to give you my card. And basically, in a general sense, the missions, diplomatic missions that are here in Mumbai, consulate generals, that's their job. Okay, so we have our embassies in Delhi that deal, of course, many issues, but primarily political. And here we are, the consulates general in Mumbai. We deal with those issues. So that it's a one-stop shop for people that are interested in our countries to get all the information and all the connections that you need.
So just to complement what Mr. Gasha has said, is it's the same thing. So we are part of government. So you come to the right people. We guide you accordingly, according to the parameters of the legal framework that we have in our own each country. So you will get the proper guidance, and then from there you take it forward. So we'll be happy to connect with you, and then accordingly you can, whenever you have startups who are looking into those opportunities, we will be more than happy to support and facilitate. That's our role, to guide and to facilitate, to handhold until they are implementing and they become a local company, and then even after having set up, there is an aftercare service which is also provided. So we are still there. We don't just let them like in loose in the ocean and they have to swim by themselves, but we continue to support them and facilitate and guide them. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Very good speakers. And I want to know what you told most about the manufacturing. How about the service companies and what are the tax exemptions in that regard? Are they having a lot of tax exemptions as same like a manufacturing company? Both of you.
So indeed, when we speak of trade in goods, it's very specific. It's something tangible. So there you have that import duty element which comes into play. And when it comes in trade in services, then it is as per the definition of the WTO, that is the World Trade Organization. And there you have 4 modes of supplies. One which is like the movement of people. The second could be the presence of the company, of the firm or the entity in the other country. And it goes like this. So that's in terms of, because you can't feel the service. Service is intangible. You can't measure the import. There is no import duty element there. However, it comes to the taxation part, which is in terms of the corporate tax that government will put in place. And as I mentioned earlier during my presentation, for the startups, it can be in services sector. So when the startup was setting, let's take the example of financial services, for example. So as a financial services company, you have registered your business in Mauritius and you're doing your business all over the world. Income that is coming into Mauritius, the normal corporate tax rate is 15% across the floor. However, for companies which are into financial services and which are getting income from outside Mauritius, that tax is reduced from 15 to 3%. That will be up till the end of this month because our financial year is ending this month. And as from the next financial year, which starts on 1st of July, so there has been the budget announcement that tax exemption, which was up to 80%, now will be increased to 95%. So it will go even lower in terms of your tax payment. So, which makes it interesting. And like I mentioned about the film rebate scheme, let us say you come and have a film production project you do in Mauritius. So your expenses that you're incurring in Mauritius, which we call qualified production expenditures, QPE. So your QPE, you will get a rebate of between 30 up to 40% of that expense that you have done in Mauritius, which will include your cast and crew, your travel from India to Mauritius, and all the local services that you have availed of. So all this is included into that. So there is a whole list of QPE that covers. So like this, there are more and more. And if you, for example, if you're a logistics service provider, you're operating out of Mauritius, again, 15% corporate tax, it is reduced to 3% because you're a company which is providing export services. Thank you.
And just to complement what my colleague just said, well, in Mexico, it would work in a similar way. I mean, there are a lot of regulations, but what I would just add is that, what we are looking at right now worldwide is a move from traditional trade patterns and traditional trade agreements that usually dealt with primarily dealt with the trade in goods, and there were, like what we just said, some rules, what we call rule of origin for the national component that has to be produced in a country to qualify for this free trade agreement, for instance. But now the next generation trade agreements, like the one that we have in North America, has moved from not only trading goods, but now we're looking at the regulation of financial services, the regulation of e-commerce, the regulation of intellectual property. So those are the hot topics right now. And you must know that there are proper regulations, and they are, I would say, very similar worldwide.
Now we can have one more question, and after that whoever wants to ask for 5-10 minutes, we will be here. You can ask personally offline.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity. One of my clients is a largest manufacturer of biomagnetic products which are for the health purpose in India. Just in 30 months, he has achieved a turnover of 300 crores with more than 6 lakh members in the network because he is manufacturing and distributing the products in a network model of direct selling. Is such a thing allowed in your countries like Mexico and Mauritius? And can he replicate his business model into your countries?
If something works in India, it will work anywhere in the world. So we are more than happy to welcome this type of project in Mauritius.
Yes, same. And I would only add one thing that is specific to the healthcare and medical sector, and that is that this sector has a very particular thing, and that is that it has to comply not only with trade regulations, but also with healthcare regulations. Okay, so what works here can work in Mauritius, can work in Mexico, but it has to go through the regulatory process because we're talking about medicines, we're talking about vaccines, treatments that deal with human healthcare. So that would be the only thing that we would have to take into account. Thank you.
Okay, we've reached the end of the question and answer round. It's been a very insightful session, definitely learning from all the experts in the industry, and definitely international cross collaborations will now pave a more better future for more markets, more technology, and better businesses in general. Now we're moving to the memento ceremony. We have to grace our guests for being the experts in the industry and for their willingness to share their knowledge with us here today. To start off the memento ceremony, can we have the mementos near the stage, please? Okay, first off, we have Dr. C.A. Prasanna D. Gracing and presenting the memento to C.A. Nihar Jambarsaria first. Can we now have C.A. Murtaza Kachwala present the memento to Mr. Adolfo Garcia Estrada? The last memento for the session from Prasanna sir to Sivraj Nandalal. I'd request our guests to please be seated. We're now moving to a vote of thanks to wrap up the session by C.M. Murtaza Kachwala.
So let me first thank past President of ICI, C.A. Nihar Jambusaria. Nihar sir, thank you very much for your initial address and also for moderating the session so well. And I think one message which I picked up from you is collaboration, and linking it to Shivraj's last slide. I would say we as India believe always in going far, and we believe in going together. So we would want to collaborate with both Mexico and Mauritius and go ahead on a long journey. I think the CECPA with Mauritius is like an excellent step in building a huge relationship between India and Mauritius. And I think that will also help a lot of business growth between both the countries. Interesting things, I think you mentioned about the rebate when people set up and the production thing which you talked about. I think there are few things which I have noted and maybe a little more detail if you can share with us and we can share with all the participants. One on the premium visa which you mentioned about, how, what, who gets it. The second one was on the tax holiday which you talked about. Of course, the rebate, and then the whole incubation. I think the whole incubation will be very interesting to know who can incubate, what are the various benefits which are available. And the last and the most important, I think you mentioned about a lot of areas from which funding can be made available. And of course, people who come and set up would be interested in knowing what type of funds can be made available. So, Mr. Shivraj, excellent. I think a lot of inputs and a lot of food for thought, and we can pick up a lot of stuff from there as well. Mr. Adolf, I think again, we took the point fintech and both data digital. I'm sure the Indian startups are doing a lot of good work on the fintech side, lot of work on the data digital automation analytics and the RPA and other things, process mining. So there will be huge opportunities and we look forward to again collaborate with your organization as well. And you, the country being in such a strategic position, I think Mexico, from there we'll be able to like service both the North and South of America. So really interesting. Thank you for your time as well. And last, let me thank Central Council member Prasanna Kumar sir. Sir, thank you for your initial address as well and for the opening remark and setting the session up. And of course, my regional council colleague Pinky, Shruti and all the ICI staff and the young lady here. I think tremendous amount of work which has happened in the last 3 months to organize this huge event. And I should not forget to thank Dheeraj Khandelwal, the president, past president, vice president also, but Dheeraj ji, I've seen the efforts he's put in. And thanks to each and everyone for joining this interesting session. Thank you.
We have now reached the end. We can move towards the lunch hour. We hope to see all of you back here at 2 o'clock with us. Have a great meal, all of you. This is Startup Sphere 2023, hosted by WIRC, Day 1, Session number 2. We hope you all had a great time. Come, kar do. We hope all of you had a great time at lunch, meeting and interacting with all the entrepreneurs, along with some yummy food on the table. Okay, it's time now for what is one of the most engaging sessions of the day. We have a panel discussion on the topic Startup Towards Make in India. For that, can we please have all of the guests on the stage seated at their seats? The proper introduction of the guest will be done by the moderator afterwards. Yes, sir. Just get on the stage. We welcome all the panelists on the stage. Can we have a round of applause for our guests here? But before we jump into the session, we have a welcome address and opening remark by by CA Durgesh Kabra, Central Council member, ICAI.
Good afternoon, one and all. I think you all had the lunch, right? And after lunch, one can understand normally the people will be less. They need a nap. But I think the other side also is not allowing us to have the nap. And the session today is with respect to the startup, with respect to the Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? Where two founders of the startup here who will talk to you about the startup in India and how they are becoming the unicorn. But let me tell you that over past 6 years, the startup industry has gone more than 15,400%. I think this is the highest number in any industry which is there. It's one kind of big achievement for India, where now India stands as third largest in the startup growth story. The India is after China and US, we are the third largest, and approximately we have around 1 lakh plus startups in India. We do have more than 100 unicorn. And if we talk about all these things, past 7 years or 10 years, I think there were few. But the success of Zerodha, success of Ola, success of Uber, success of Zomato, Swiggy, Paytm, all these have changed the thinking process of the Indian entrepreneurs, and that to young entrepreneurs. The time has changed when the things were coming from the top, but now the young generation is entering into the entrepreneurship through the startups and thinking completely in a different way. And that's how India is performing fantastically, as we have best of the brain in India. And this is helping India of not having the brain drain too, because all these startups are working here in India fantastically, and they are capable of raising billions of dollars to the capital of their functioning. And I'm sure that the two founders who are sitting with us, both will deal with this subject and will be moderated very nicely. And I'm sure that you all will enjoy that what is the future further of the startup with respect to Atmanirbhar Bharat. With this opening remark, I thank you all for joining this startup sphere, and I wish that you will have fantastic learning over here, and some of you will be again a startup creator, or you will become the unicorn also, and will contribute to the economy of this country. Thank you very much.
It was indeed a very warm welcome, Durgesh sir. Thank you so much. Now we are excited to jump into the panel discussion. Are we? Are we? Okay, we have now our panel moderator, CA Gautam Pai, who is the CEO of Efficacy Capital, taking from here on from now. Over to you, sir.
First of all, am I audible? Because there are four sessions parallelly going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, my dear fellow chartered accountants, my fellow VCs, angels, my peer entrepreneurs, it gives me an immense pleasure to you welcome you all to this thought-provoking session that on startups journey and its role towards Make in India and making India a global manufacturing hub. So complementing the entire team at ICI to pull off this, one of a kind event at Mumbai's Geo Convention. You could see that more than 100 of, panelists, speakers. In fact, the likes of, the founder of Zerodha, and tomorrow there will be Aman Gupta coming in for this one of a kind event. Now, bringing this panel, setting this context right on Make in India. So in order to make India self-reliant, there was Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan launched by the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji during 2020, and over 20 lakh crores of allocation was made for this particular initiative. Now, many steps were taken by the central government, towards this particular initiative, which includes that of reducing the corporate tax rate to 15% for new manufacturing companies, investing in huge infrastructure to reduce the time cost, and building a world-class logistics system. Launching of the production-linked incentive schemes, which came for more than 14 sectors, and also it is being planned for other sectors, including that of toys, the components which are not yet manufactured in India, and on which for the products for which we are dependent on countries like China, USA, and the likes of Germany. So the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, had announced the launch of Startup India during 2016. This initiative aims at fostering entrepreneurship and promoting innovation by creating an ecosystem that is conducive to the growth of startups. Many steps were taken. If you go at the startupindia.gov website, there are a lot of initiatives which even I didn't knew when I started this practice a year back, right? As sir rightly mentioned, as on 2nd of June 2023, more than 99,000 startups have been registered under DPIIT. And hereby, if I would like to introduce myself, I'm Gautam Pai, and I'm the co-founder of Efficacy and Efficacy Capital. We have supported clients over 8 sectors under the Make in India schemes, which is production-linked incentive schemes, and who have committed over 10,000 crore of incentives. And we are here to support the journey of founders, startups, for building products and companies in India which can scale globally. So hereby, not taking much of a time, we have we have a extraordinary panelist sitting out here. Would like to introduce Mr. Ashish Fafadia, who is the partner at Bloom Ventures. Bloom's growth story, basically they are one of the pioneers of this VC industry in India. Bloom's growth stage portfolio companies as well as portfolio headed for exits. He's a chartered accountant by profession and company secretary by profession. He has also been a visiting faculty and a speaker at various industry associations. So would like to call upon stage Ashish ji to speak a couple of words and address the crowd. Yeah.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I hope it is audible. Okay, so thank you Gautam for the introduction, and thank you to the Institute for having us over. Just as a very quick backdrop, our journey at Bloom is a relatively newer journey, but when it comes to the ecosystem, we have been one of the pioneers. We started off in 2011, and we invest in early stage businesses. And over the last 12 years, we have invested in more than 100 plus businesses across various early stage businesses. Some of our businesses, which possibly many of you may have heard of, includes the likes of Purple, which is a beauty and e-commerce business on the cosmetics side. And then there are some of the businesses on the automation side, companies like Carbon Clean Solutions, Grey Orange Robotics. These are businesses which are cutting edge technology businesses coming out of India. So typically we do about a third to about 40+% of our investments in enterprise side and innovations, and the rest of the 60% on the consumer platform side. That's been the DNA, and we typically look to come in as the first institutional investors on the cap table of the company. So that's very briefly the journey of Bloom. We'll discuss more, and looking forward to spending more time with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish ji, for the introduction. Now we have as a panelist Mr. Anil Matthew, who is the President Public Policy Advocacy, ESG Engagements and Chief Risk Officer, and he's with Hindalco Industries Limited, and he's a part of the executive committee at the company. Anil also heads corporate communication and business transformation. In his role as a head of public policy advocacy, Anil works with senior government officials at Delhi and various other state headquarters for various trades and non-trade matters. He is the Vice President of Aluminum Association of India and leading the policy advocacy for the industry. Anil is also the co-chair of the Foreign Trade Committee at FICCI and also a council member at the CII. So would like to call upon stage, first of all, thank you so much for coming and sparing your time. Would like to call upon stage Anilji to spare a few words. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So you may be thinking that when you're talking about startup, what am I doing here? Okay, we were also started 50 years back. This company was started 50 years. We grew from there. Today, we are the world's largest aluminum company. So my presence is here because the subject is on Make in India. We have been very active on Make in India. So Hindalco is a aluminum producer. It was an India-based company till 2007. We did a large 6 billion acquisition in 2007, a month before the global financial crisis. So you can imagine with the global financial crisis, what might have happened through the investment. But then we did well. Today, we are one of the most profitable aluminum company globally. We did another investment of 2.5 billion in 2019. Then comes another problem, which is COVID. Even we took care of, we managed the company during that time. So today we are a financially strong company, which had very basics in terms of financial management. So maybe through the discussions, I will talk about what is our participation Make in India and how did we gain out of this whole process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the introduction. Now would like to call upon stage our third panelist. He's the co-founder of Sleepy Owl Coffee. I'm sure most of you would have had it one way or the other. Ajay has played a pivotal role in establishing, the brand as a leading player in the coffee industry. He has been recognized as, one of the Forbes 30 under 30 honoree in both Asia and India. Ajay's entrepreneurial spirit and innovative approach, are very commendable. Would like to have you on stage and speak a couple of words for the introduction.
Thank you, Gautam, for having us all here today. So my journey as in the startup ecosystem started in 2015. Things were very, very different at that point. There was very few people like Ashish at that time, and they were all investing in mostly tech-oriented businesses. I started a consumer company, which was largely dominated by Nestle's, ITC's, Unilevers of the world, and no investor wanted to touch us. But we were also motivated at that time by Make in India. Let's go back home, provide consumers with newer products, differentiated experiences, and had that gut or a very strong intuition to go about creating a brand. Luckily, along the way, we've met great partners, investors, consumers who've accepted the brand, people like Gautam who've helped us in a lot of initiatives like the PLI scheme that have enabled us to be here today. And today the ecosystem is booming, and I'm part of the D2C entrepreneur group that innovated a business model in essence in the last 5 years. And I can tell you there's every day new and new entrepreneurs coming out into the system, which is very amazing for the economy. The consumption that India will have over the next 10 years will really, really change the future of our country. And I think entrepreneurs are going to make it possible. And you guys help enable that. And I think if you continue, we're going to have a great nation and achieve all the goals that we want to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. So I believe we can start the panel. Hello. So the first question is to you, Ashish. Bloom Ventures has been the pioneer of the VC industry, and you have been associated with Bloom since 11 years, built up more than 5 unicorns, to my knowledge, including Spinny, Slice, Unacademy, Ola, which are there in your portfolio. Since 2010, we have witnessed significant changes in the product landscape and evolving consumer preferences. and technology advancements. While building up a portfolio of startups or other businesses, how crucial do you think co-building amongst your portfolio company is important? uh, and which basically is helping in promoting localization and driving the growth of startups in the manufacturing sector. And maybe you can also address on how can co-building help founders with the changing demands of market while promoting Make in India products.
Thanks, Gautam. So you've touched upon three related topics, and I will just break the answer up in each of those. So co-building amongst portfolio that you referred to, I'll just come at the last segment of this answer. The other two parts that you referred to was the perspective and the changes over the last decade since we began the journey at Bloom. And what is it that we see in the context today? And the third one is what are the quintessentials that we are looking at as patterns from here on? So when we started the journey, we realized the fact that we are a very nascent ecosystem. And honestly, when I compare since 2011 till 23 today, we kind of can't help but reflect on as to whether we were being over optimistic. We were budgeting about 8-year, 10-year journeys of startups and hope that magically we will have exits and IPOs coming left, right, and center. I think all of us are making honest efforts for sure, can't complain. But I do feel that the ecosystem took a little extra time to evolve. Back then, startup investments used to be check sizes which were in the range of about 1 crore to 3 crores. And anything which is about 5-6 crores, which is $1 million back then, would be considered as a really good investment. And when we put things into perspective 10-12 years later today, it is much more mainstream than one could have imagined it to be. Today, best of founders would only start the journey if there is another about 15-20 plus crores on the table. Not to suggest that there is no opportunity below that. Enough of our businesses have raised much lower and have still done incredibly well. But that's the fundamental difference that has shaped over the last 10-12 years. The other, what is this reflecting? It is not just a statistic. This change also in some sense reflects two different dynamics. Number one, the fact that the market size assumptions have started to fall in place. We were delayed by a bit, but now we are clearly a big enough market. Back then, as Ajay mentioned earlier, not many investors would have the gumption of looking at D2C businesses like they have built. And today, it is not just aspirational, it is imaginable that a company can start and build a profitable, sustainable, scalable business around most areas that we can imagine. Back then, the imagination or the assumptions were that India is the winner-take-all market, which meant that if I have funded a company, there could not be a scope to fund competition by any other investor also. Enough of our companies in our portfolio were taken to be dead just because a larger investor came and funded the competitor 10x the money. And today when we look at the market sizes, I think we can safely have 3 to 5 winners or category creators in each of the verticals that you can imagine. So India is not a winner-take-all market, it is now a proven fact. And the third fundamental thing that this particular statistic demonstrates is that we are big enough. It is just that we can't get strayed and we need to acknowledge the difference between valuations and price. These are related but still different constructs. So we will have to build sustainably and profitably. Now coming to your point and what is the importance of the ecosystem. Startup journeys largely are lonely journeys. Founders will tell you how they would typically be 1, 2, 3 members to start with. And there is literally very limited, finite set of people who will be available on their beck and call or support over a phone call or a in-person. And then you have a phase like COVID. So I think it boils down to the kind of ecosystem that India has shaped up to be. It is a good reason why we rank as number 2 and number 3 in terms of destination for startups, capital being deployed in startups. The word ecosystem becomes very critical. It is something which is very commonsensical that it takes 20, 30, 40 years to build a mega large business. And we have enough of those in the country. But when you're coming at startups, you're talking about the combination of innovation at rapid pace. It is because of that rapid pace that you end up running out of money and possibly debts, or you discover that I don't have a good market. Who is there to spar with you? Who is there to give you that validation or that critical feedback? Yes, there are investors like us who do that job. Many of us have been doing it from an early stage. Some of us, including us, have gone down the path of setting up a full-fledged advisory team for the benefit of the startups to tap into. But nothing beats the ability of a founder to have a conversation with another founder. We can share our experiences, but that's retro at the end of the day. And that takes care of the first 90%. The last 10% is going to be the quality of conversation that you will learn from another seasoned entrepreneur who has done it and done it well. So it becomes very critical, I believe, for the founders to have access to like-minded people suffering similar set of constraints. Even after having built a very large platform services team, which is helping founders with fundraise, we help our founders with go-to-market, advisory services, hiring. There are about 75 to 80 people dedicated in the service of the founders. But nothing beats the two founders chatting together and getting the right kind of advice. You can validate as an investor seeing the lens with maybe a 5,000 feet above. Best investors don't talk about 30,000 feet. They have to be contextualizing on the ground, but we are still not facing it every day. So it is best that they have that ecosystem. So it becomes important. However, when I say this, I also want to end with the fact that you will also have to make sure that we are taking the right learnings. It's for the first time that we are witnessing a stressful phase in fundraising for a continuous phase of 6 quarters. India has gone through its ups and downs. The cycles of fundraising for startups have been very fast. So in 14, 15, it kind of started getting into euphoric zone. It curbed. And in 2.5, 3 years, the cycle completes itself from peak to bottom. It's now for the first time that we have had 6 rough quarters back to back. And you're witnessing stress. It is not about just aspiring for 6,000 crore unicorn, which is now actually 8,200 crore. That's the value of the dollar and $1 billion. So what you listen to, the type of people you listen to becomes crucial as well. So the right advice on the right set of people trumps everything else.
Absolutely. I mean, as you rightly mentioned, the dynamics of the entire ecosystem has changed. The ecosystem has opened up, and many co-founders, are collaborating with each other. Many networks are being built up across cities, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Even the government officials are building up networks. For example, KSM is building up. Startup Tamil Nadu is there. Startup Odisha is there. You can see stall of Startup UP. So for that networking helps in learnings because the mistakes that one startup founder makes for his own company is not being repeated by his co-founder.
No, it is not. While I agree with what you said, it is not just about the mistakes alone, Gautam. So I'm just adding to what you said, that sometimes it's also about making sure that you are able to get the right connect. So you are looking at building a B2B enterprise startup, which is highly innovative. But at the end of the day, if you don't know that you have never been to the US before, somebody needs to be able to tell you that, what are you doing? You can't really build. If your market is India, you need to know that it takes 9 months for an enterprise to give an order. We have large enterprises in the country. They are adopting innovation programs, but they still have processes which will consume a hell lot of a time. Some of them have evolved and they still take 6 months. So you need to be able to get in front of the right people, and that is what the networks and ecosystems are able to do it for you.
Completely agree. So moving on to the D2C founder, I'll put a relevant question for you. So Sleepy Owl Coffee has been, one of the proud startups who have scaled up very well in the extremely competitive space, predominantly led by the giants of the likes of Nescafe or the Starbucks. As a consumer myself, I believe that that has been possible because of your aggressive team, your product quality, distribution strategy, and your especially your digital marketing strategy. You haven't used any of the ambassadors. Now, CPL envisions to capture the coffee industry and compete with the global giants. What are some of the unique challenges which, according to you, startups in the D2C segment face when it comes to manufacturing in India, and maybe making uh, building a world-class brand which can compete with global players? At the end of the day, it has to be made in India.
So, in terms of your first question, and what have you learned? I was an investment banker before I started a FMCG food company. So my experience was purely financial services and doing transactions for. I used to live in the US, work for a US investment bank. Then I came back, and it's just been a learning journey, and no single day has been the same. But to add to what Ashish was saying, what one thing that really helped. So we are invested in a. One of our first investors was DSG Consumer, where they were the leading consumer early stage investors in India, who also took a similar bet at around time when you took it. Uh, so the advantage there was that all the other companies who today are recognizable, namely Viva Sauces, Epigamia, Sula Wines, Clear Trip, Oyo Rooms. So these guys were all part of the same cohort, maybe 2 or 3 years ahead of us. So it was pretty easy for me from one perspective. Every day is challenging, and you're struggling to, after you've got the product, that should be the founders. I feel in a product company, product is supreme. A bad product, no matter how good your marketing is, cannot sell. But after that, there are challenges in a day-to-day basis, and that ecosystem was extremely helpful. And even till date, you know he was talking about last 6 quarters being tough, and talking about COVID. I thought COVID was a breeze for the startup ecosystem, because we were very innovative. We were ready to ship online overnight. None of us really had to figure all of that out. We had all the tech stacks available, websites running, how to advertise, that something which was our bread and butter. But what was challenge has been challenging is that startups who function on a 18 to 24 month hedonistic treadmill, where you run, money runs out, you run, new money runs out. So it's a 18 to 24 month cycle, and that cycle got disrupted very badly. So, and in the startup community, words are used a lot. Sir was talking about unicorns. Actually, now the word is cockroach. No one really talks about being a unicorn, because it doesn't really matter, and it's all fluff. What matters is being a cockroach and surviving the doom and gloom we are currently in. But even in that, some days are very tough. You've never been faced with having difficult conversations, but then you go and talk to someone who went through something similar in 2014-15. A 30-minute conversation with that person who just gets it, who's walked the walk, what you're going through, will save 2 or 3 pieces of advice, and okay, which direction I need to go and figure it out. So ecosystem is extremely helpful. Now, to answer your question on manufacturing, problem in India is that, and we face it, like we do get some of our products from China, because primarily it's quality issue. It's not that we would be much happier buying stuff locally, provided the quality, the authenticity of what we are buying is at par with China. Price obviously matters. So right now, shipping something from China is almost 10-20% cheaper than what we would. Firstly, we won't even be able to find that of that similar quality, even from raw material to this is all back end finished raw material goods that we end up procuring from other markets. So it's very critical for the ecosystem to develop, because most food and beverage early stage companies will not invest in capex, because you're raising equity capital, which is very expensive form of capital. Putting it in capex is not the best ROI or ROCE in the long term. So you have to invest in marketing and distribution to scale the business. So that is why we go to contract manufacturers, third party manufacturers, and we've gone through that journey ourselves, where we were manufacturing ourselves eventually realized, as a founder, you have to pick a battle. Do I want to build distribution? Do I want to build marketing? Do I want to build a brand? Or do I want to build everything? And if you end up doing everything, then something will suffer. And that's where finding good contract partners to work with is very helpful. In the last 5 years, some have done a phenomenal job. Hindustan Foods is one, based out of Maharashtra, I think, Bombay based, publicly listed now. They've done a phenomenal job to ensure quality standards that can be global. So it's only when your manufacturing is of a global standard can you go and compete with your products at the global level. So there is some work to be done on that front.
No, absolutely. The quality of products. If the Indian products has to compete globally, there has to be a standard of quality. And I'm sure that in the times to come, you'll also buy products from India, and it would be make in India products. And we would love to see Sleepy Owl coffee manufactured in India and selling it globally. Now moving into someone who has not been a part of the startup industry, but has been a part of a company who is in existence in 50 years. So Hindalco has been a part of Make India and Atmanirbhar Bharat initiatives, has been one of the forefront for the company. Anil ji, you have been a part of corporate leadership at Hindalco, right? Where you have been leading new projects, dealing with central and state governments at various levels, where you have sought for requisite support in terms of incentives or while setting up a new manufacturing facilities. In fact, Hindalco is one of the one of the beneficiaries under the PLI scheme for white goods, where they have committed over 800 crores of investment, and the incentive expected is about 400 crores in the next 5 years, for building a state-of-art, aluminum facility, right? So further, in your practical experience, Anilji, it would be really great if the audience at large, if you could please elaborate the work that you have done and the government's drive with regards to the Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Yeah, thanks, Gautam. So, the Honorable Prime Minister launched this Make in India program, I think, sometime in September 2014 after he came to power. So, the investments picked up, and sometime in 2016, I think the Startup India was also launched. So, a lot of traction happened into startup and even Make in India. But the real kickstart happened when 2020, when the Prime Minister launched the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, which came in, and immediately after that, COVID also struck sometime in May. The good thing happened was that immediately government pumped in something like 20 lakhs crores to support the industry at that point of time, and we need to give the credit to the finance ministry, because wherein Western world, the money which was spent on the demand side of the industry for giving doles and things like that. Whereas in India, the government put that 20 lakhs crore into the supply side, which helped the industry to sustain, which really you saw the result, the post-COVID, when other countries went through real inflationary pressure. Forget about the inflationary pressure created by the Russia-Ukraine war. But otherwise, some other countries, when it went through inflationary pressure, India inflation went up, but not to the level what we saw in the other parts of the country. So that is where the Atmanirbhar Bharat started. And as a process, what the industry did was the government started stakeholders consultation with the industry. I had been part of many of the consultation, what we want to do at that point. And so government is asked, like one of the example was that just before that, the government was looking at signing an RCEP, which is a large free trade agreement with 16 countries, where China was also involved. And it was initiated by the Commerce Ministry. When industry went and opposed that, the Honorable Prime Minister went for the RCEP meeting in Thailand and refused to sign that, even though some of the ministries felt that that was the wrong thing to do. So that is something which is a very positive thing. So in the Atmanirbhar Bharat, it starts with the stakeholder consultation. Then there were some of the incentives which were launched at that point of time, and one was a PLI scheme. Third thing was there is very strict import monitoring system which has been built in, because today, like for example, day before yesterday, there was a call from the Department of Industry Promotion saying that A lot of aluminum materials are coming in the others category. What is that? So government has started looking at, so when you want Make in India, you also need to ensure that the unnecessary imports are stopped sometime somewhere. So these are some of the things which came in. And also the Commerce Ministry formed something called a scale committee. I don't remember the full name. It is the steering committee for local value add and export. So a lot of things happened during that early 2020 time, and government committed money into it. When the PLI scheme was launched, 1.97 lakh crore was committed by the government. And the first three industries who came into PLI, one was mobile phones, then electronics component manufacturing, and I think third one was pharmaceutical. And I was reading sometime in December, from India, 1 billion worth of mobile iPhone was exported. This was not something which we thought which could happen maybe in last 2 years or something like that. So there is a lot of things happened. Then post that, government picked up a lot of other industries, and one of the industry where we participated was the white goods, especially on the air conditioners. So today, India produces something like 7 million numbers of air conditioners. A lot of air conditioners are imported from China. The target is by 27 or 29, India should be producing something like 40 million numbers of air conditioners in India. So see how the whole landscape changes because of this Make in India concept and the support which government has come in. So we had been a beneficiary of the PLI. We are investing around 800 crores. We are also looking at some of the niche areas. Even talking about startup, some of the areas where startups are working, like I think Gautam is working on the drones PLI you are working on. There are a lot of startups coming in drone which are getting PLI benefits. So overall, this Make in India is something which is really supporting India to grow, because as per the PM, by FY28, India should be the third largest economy, surpassing Japan and Germany. And by India, India at 100, which is 2047, they are looking at a 25 to 35 trillion dollars of dollar economy here. So if all these things has to happen, there has to be some support from the government, and also more than that, there has to be a lot of focus from the government. Now, the Make in India is not just for the large companies for us. Every industry, whether it is large company, the MSMEs, which we call the backbone of the Indian industry, the small industries, and even the startups coming with niche areas are required in the whole ecosystem for building the ecosystem for Make in India and make India a 25 trillion economy by 2047.
Thank you, sir. As you rightly said, even it starts from a startup. I mean, even Make in India, somewhere down the line, the global champion will become. There will be only global champions starting from as a startup, then as a MSME, and then as a large corporate. And while we are sitting here, there's a review meeting happening at Delhi for all the PLI schemes as of now, and you may hear it about soon, maybe in a day or two, maybe in a week, where PLI scheme for toys, bicycles, your new PLI scheme for textiles, millets may be out. So now, maybe moving on to the next question. We are witnessing a surge in the number of startups from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. As of this June, over 49% of the startups, right, of 99,000 DPIT registered startups are based out from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. This question is to you, Ashish and Ajay, both. For building up an open and robust ecosystem in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, the presence of innovation programs thus becomes extremely crucial to help them grow and maybe scale up. How can such innovation-driven programs be curated to enable impact-driven growth of startups outside the metro cities in the manufacturing industry, especially from the perspective of a startup founder or a VC?
Okay, so let me start with one broad sweeping statement, and then I'll go a little deeper and explain myself as well. So I think when we look at the developments and say that, okay, how can we get more? Let's also understand that why we do what we do will determine how we do it. And the reason I'm saying something like this is that statistics can sometimes be very, very misleading. You are talking about half the number of startups coming from those regions. That's absolutely true. but this is a 10-year game. So when you are going to start saying that, okay, there were half the startups that came in, rest assured, when you look at it 3 years down the line, not much would have moved in those regions. If we are going to look at it and say that, oh, it does not work and it's a shit show, so let's abandon it, that's a catastrophic waste of resources and time. So if we are going to give it a longer phase and give it a 10-year time horizon, I think all of what you said becomes achievable and even possible. Without giving some of these things a 10-year horizon, I think that's impossible to see anything about it. Let's talk about the current ecosystem, which largely in terms of value is represented by the three large cities, which is Bangalore, Delhi, and everything else put together is third equivalent, and it will still be much smaller than the second one, which is Delhi, or a part of Delhi, which possibly could be a Gurgaon or a Noida. We started off in 2007-8, the current ecosystem development. And it was only after 2014-15 that we saw meaningful developments. Post that, we started seeing policy level interventions. After the policy level intervention, when the Honorable Prime Minister put out the Startup India program, we started bunch of states putting out their own policies as well to attract the startups. Here, in order to make these successful, if I'm to give my viewpoints from a lens of a VC and the journey of the last 10-12 years, two fundamental things are important. Number one is that heavily localization has to be prioritized. If we don't try and localize, we are going to only create more and more brain drain. In the first 5, 7, 8 years, every US investor would come to India and say that I like the startup, I'm giving a term sheet, I'll fund you $1 million, come and set up the office in the Valley or San Francisco. This was common across most of the B2B startups. Pre-COVID also, we had many of those situations. If you kind of try and start replicating those programs in Tier 2, Tier 3, mainstream VCs like us will go and say, yeah, good talent, set up in Bangalore. The localization is key. Let's not check the box. So if you're going to see the startup there, thrive it, and then say that, okay, how is it relevant to the localized ecosystems and how we can make it scalable, then we are doing the right thing. Otherwise, we are doing lip service to the whole theory, which is okay. It might suit a few, but I'm just being very open and blunt about the fallacies that could happen if trying to overdo it, right? The second thing is that we will have to play to our own strengths. For example, it's beyond me if at all someone like a Bihar or a Jharkhand would come up and say that we want to see tech startups. They are actually putting in money, and the right thing is to create a capital pool available, but to their strengths, which is mining, minerals, etc. And we need those natural resources also to come up and start firing on all cylinders. At the end of the day, we are not going to be what we want to be without a holistic, self-reliant country. So let's focus on these two core principles, which is localization and play to our strengths. And then we will get to making sure that people who get employed in Bhubaneswar, Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai will be there. We need local mascots and local champions. So Chennai becomes a big hub thanks to the fact that there is a Freshworks, which is there. Because in one Freshworks that goes and becomes a 2, 3, 5,000 crore company, you will start the next set of people who will say, okay, I want to create my next company. And he or she will have the gumption and the faith to say that I will set up my office in Chennai. If you are only going to work on the basis of mascots who are outside and keep celebrating the 10 billion and the 5 billion stories, you're not going to create those. So it goes back to my prior point that we need to make sure that we are playing to our strengths and localizing heavily. So all of this kind of plays into the earlier argument that I mentioned, Gautam, which is the ecosystem. So it's all about that and giving it the time for it to nourish and grow.
Absolutely. I mean, the right point you mentioned, localization and becoming a local champion before becoming a global champion. So even in case of cities like Coimbatore, Cochin, many cities have shown that there are businesses that can grow, and institutes like IIT and IIMs have been pushing this front. So Jay, I mean, if you can just throw some light on this.
Yeah, I have a very contrarian view, but I agree with everything he said. Firstly, what is startup? Startup is a business in essence, right? Like if you're talking about tech, then that's a different conversation. But in essence, startup is business. And in my travels, and because I do distribution and food, honestly, there's a lot more money in tier 2, 3, 4 cities, concentrated capital available, created by entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs in those cities, and it's been happening for now. The names have changed, but it's not anything new to the nation at all or to the country. And like small example, there is, you talk about Chennai. Uh, there is a founder called CK Rangarajan who's founded this company called Cavan Care, and he innovated the shampoo sachet, which was called the Chick shampoo, which was a 150 paisa shampoo in 1987 that changed the whole FMCG dynamic and how Unilever operates or P&G operates today. They sell 50% of their shampoo sales come from that innovation that happened by this entrepreneur sitting in Chennai. That was not a Bombay or a Delhi of that time. So currently also it is happening. It is very localized. In beverages, I originally come from Chandigarh. There's a company in the outskirts of Chandigarh that started about 3 years ago. They make these 10 rupee drinks called Lahori Zira. Now it's kind of available everywhere. You've probably seen the hoardings in Bandra. In 3 years, they've scaled to about 450 crores top line, 10% EBITDA. So it is already happening. So it doesn't necessarily have to be tech only, and you have to play to your strengths. You have to play to what there is consumer demand, and I think entrepreneurs should flow wherever there is demand, because eventually to create a large sustainable business, consumption has to go up. So you should know who you're trying to sell your product to, and sometimes it makes more sense to be localized in order to have efficient supply chain, in order to have better localized manufacturing, to cater the best product to that consumer. There is a consumer sitting in all those cities. So that is what I will like to add to that.
Rightly mentioned. I mean, there are consumer sittings. I mean, even in case of corporates, there are consumer sittings for a startup. So now moving on to a direct question for Anil ji. You have a considerable experience in the aluminum industry and are very closely connected with the government regarding the adoption of aluminum in India. Right now, the per capita aluminum consumption stand to about 3 odd kgs, right? Which is significantly lower than for a global average of 12 kgs, and the China's consumption of maybe 30 kg per capita. There could be a lot of opportunities for startups, right, to bridge the gap with new technology and support a corporate like Hindalco. So maybe according to you, how do you see startups collaborating with corporates like Hindalco for their internal requirement, and then maybe scale up from there?
Okay, even startups like Ajay and even Ashish were talking about why should we do everything? It should be done by multiple startups, so that is where you can succeed. So this is definitely applicable for the larger companies, because when we get into aluminium, there are different levels of operation. Like this morning only, we were talking about aluminium cycles in India, because globally aluminium cycles are picking up. Who will do that job? Because the cycle company says that, hey, get me aluminium frame, I will manufacture, but don't ask me to manufacture frame. Hindalco will say that I will give you the aluminium extrusion for that, but I'm not getting into aluminium frame manufacturing. So I'm just giving an example. Or else, when you talk about startup, we talked about drone. Today in mining, drone has become a very active thing, which gets into the depth of the mining, because there are a lot of unsafe activities that happens there. Or with digitalization happening, there is a lot of activities happening in the factory shop floors, where when when we look at safety and things like that. So in the process of moving from a 2.8 kg, you're right, Gautam, around 3 kg per capita consumption, to something like 10 kg per capita consumption, there is a lot more work where the startups can help in terms of more focused on the innovation part of it. Because there are a lot of smaller areas where, Like for example, aluminum production is a very energy intensive manufacturing process. I've seen a lot of startups coming in terms of, so we use something like 15,000 units of energy for producing 1 ton of aluminum. I've seen a lot of startups coming with ideas on in terms of how do you improve the energy efficiency. One is you save cost. Second one is from a ESG perspective, and even since we're using coal-based power, there is a sustainability benefit coming out of it. So overall, there are a lot of areas where when we move from a smaller aluminum consuming country to a larger aluminum consuming country, there are a lot of areas where in the technology side, the efficiency side, the safety side, in the services side, or even on the product side, where startups can come. And in fact, I was presenting to the scale committee other day in terms of bringing an aluminum downstream products into the PLI scheme and the scale. So one other thing came out, what is the benefit out of it? Who's going to handhold the MSMEs and startups into it? We offered our help because we got global R&D centers. So we offered help in terms of larger companies can come and handhold the smaller companies to get into this sphere. So we are there. We want startups to come in and help us in growing even our larger businesses also.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's something called corporate innovation program, which is happening at various corporate level. Many groups like Adani, even in case of Aditya Birla Ventures, like it's already there. Tata Group have been supporting various innovation for their in-house corporate group entities, so as to build up companies. So another question to you, Anil, would be more on the policy advocacy. Risk taking is, I mean, you are a chief risk officer of the Hindalco Industries. Risk taking is an inherent aspect of the startup ecosystem, right? Requiring entrepreneurs to navigate various uncertainties across their life cycle and embrace new opportunities. While with expertise in the risk management and advocacy, what is your perspective on the importance of building up a risk management strategy, and how can you, as of maybe how can the first time on founders effectively manage and mitigate those set of risks by leveraging their inherent capabilities? I mean, Ajay and Ashish, you may also touch upon this.
So typically what happens, if you have a car, if you want to drive it fast, you need good brakes, and they want to drive it very fast, right? And second thing is, you are taking risk, and if you have a good risk management system, it will help you to take more risk. So it is not that risk management is going to control the risk taking. Risk management is there to help you take more risk, and risk is not just something which was startup, whether it is large companies, small companies, startups, government, even on the individual side, risk management is something which people should practice. So my view is that you should have a very, very structured process of risk management even in startups.
Check. Yeah, so I'll say risk hai to ishq hai, right? Entrepreneur's journey is filled with risk. The fact you start up is a risk. The day you have to be comfortable with living with absolute, making decisions with absolute uncertainty and very limited information on a day-to-day basis. The decision-making muscle keeps improving. Your intuition keeps improving. You get a good gut feeling for how much can you really stress test the system. But it is very, very essential. We would not be here today had we not been hardcore risk takers. But to that, I will only add, take risks, but not at the cause of a blow up. That you don't. It's not a gamble like where you're gambling everything Arya par. You have to take a risk. That yes, even if shit hits the fan, you still can live to take a risk another day. Is what I think is how I like to operate.
No, you put it very well. So I'll just highlight on another dimension of risk, Ajay. So I think fundamentally, not taking risk sometimes is a bigger risk, and in the life of a founder, it's imperative that you have signed up for that journey. So hard for me to imagine that there won't be risk. So the choices one makes are crucial here. So when you are at an early stage, people always say that, okay, get the right investor. Sometimes one needs to also answer the question whether you want to bring an investor. So I would urge every entrepreneur here who is looking at starting up to think about whether you're building startup or a business. When you want to go in and take in other people's money and you want to bring in other partners aligning to what your vision mission is, that's fine. But if you want to bring in a normal business, it may not be so cool and so sexy, if I can use that word, to hit headlines by funding announcements, but that is as cool as well. But at the end of the day, after a 10-15 year journey, the ultimate headline is that the company hits an IPO market, or the company created wealth which was attributable on the back of cash flows and profitability. That will not go out of fashion. We have seen the last few years, valuations have come and gone out of fashion, but cash flows will always remain. So at the end of the day, the right risks that you take are the balancing that one has to do. It is riding a one wheel cycle. It's not even a bicycle. And yeah, you are riding a tiger. So you're signed up the moment you decide to run on your own. Chartered accountants have done it many a times by starting up their practices, by giving up jobs, etc. And so startups will not be way too different, except that there you have backups, your service provider. Here you are not. So understand your KYC, which is know your constituencies. And accordingly, I think you will optimize and intuitively keep learning. Nothing compensates for your own learning.
Because final is that you'll hear a lot of gyan across your life, but the Diwali में लोग दो टाइप के लोग होते हैं, एक पटाखे देखते हैं, एक जाके चलाते हैं. So entrepreneur है वो जो चला के देखने में मजा, that is the difference. And till you haven't suffered yourself, then you go back and wisdom comes that, oh shit, Ashish told me that 5 years ago, I wish I'd listened, but I still went ahead and did my own thing.
No, rightly mentioned. And in fact, no startup is successful without all the ecosystem enablers taking their risk. Be it your investor, be it you as a founder, even be it your employees who are working for you, right? Without, they are also risking their own. Early stage employees are very difficult to handle. Your mentors, advisors who are supporting you, with or without fees, your accelerators, incubators at a very early stage. It's the name or the brand that they give to you as of early stage founders. So without this, even the startups may not succeed. So risk is something which everyone, as you know, who is a part of this ecosystem has to evaluate from their own perspective. So thank you so much. We still have about 10-15 minutes left. We are open for questions if you have any. You have a VC, you have a D2C founder, and of course you have a corporate on the dais. If you have any questions, they are happy to answer for 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, this is to Ajay. You said you had a lot of difficulty initially because you were actually into a product and not fintech or tech. How did you overcome that? If everybody was going there, what did you do differently to attract attention?
Hello. Yeah, so what I was talking about difficulty was from a perspective of ecosystem for consumers, startup. So what startup meant from 2008 when the Flipkart guys started till about 2015 was mostly tech oriented enablement. So anything that involved technology, a software, a platform, an app, there was a lot of that ecosystem had developed. There was a lot of investors, foreign and domestic. 2015, because consumer hadn't, and consumer means FMCG, products, restaurants, that had not developed at the early stage because the notion at that time was that Nestle and ITC, all these guys have a lot of capital, they dominate. People don't really have a problem with their products, so what is the need for a new company type of like ours to come up? So any company's journey requires capital in order to grow. You can do it sustainably as well, but that takes a lot of time. So if you want to cut down your time by at least 50%, capital is helpful. So that is what I was trying to tell you, that in the early stage, that part of things hadn't developed. So then it was pure conviction on our front that we felt as entrepreneurs that this was a category that was ready to be disrupted. This was a consumer habit that is evolving and changing. It has changed in the out of home category. It's a matter of time when consumer preferences change at home as well. And we wanted to be the brand that is the first brand to offer them that product, as India, hopefully, which it is transitioning, but very slowly goes from becoming a tea drinking nation to a coffee drinking nation. Sleepy Owl wanted to be a brand of choice. No one believed us, and so that was belief in ourselves. And about 2 years into that journey, we found DSG Consumer. They loved our product. So that also, because in a consumer or product based company, a product is supreme and product is king. So if you drink that coffee and you love it, you're like, I really, really believe in what these. So that worked for us. Eventually, it was not all the bhashan I was giving that this is what we will do. When we actually created a real product and there was a real business, real revenue, real consumers talking about it, that's when the investors started talking about it. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Now, if you can share your experience when in your journey, how did you deal with the dilution? How did it all start? And then where are you? The dilution part.
So you're asking about dilution and equity? Okay. Okay. See, someone told me this in the very early days. So we are 3 co-founders. So we start with 33, 33, 33. You have to be very fair because entrepreneurship is a long, long, long marathon. And even, there are a lot of companies that are very, that start, a founder starts and he'll take 60%, then he'll get someone, he'll give him, call him a co-founder, but give him 10%. VCs look down upon it, and I feel in the journey you have to have equal skin in the game. And if you're very stingy about giving equity, you really don't have the right mindset to grow and scale things. You have to be very liberal when it also comes to giving equity to early stage employees, because what he was talking about, your team is very critical. Actually, I feel for a founder or a startup starting out, 2 words make the most important sense. One is TAM, what these guys look at, which is total addressable market. And one is team, which is the team that comes with you from the early stage. They're also taking equal amount of risk. They might not have the idea risk or putting their life on hold like you do as a founder or entrepreneur, but skin in the game, and it should be rewarded. And that's how you'll attract talent. And last is in terms of dilution and getting, good venture capitalist on board, you will dilute, right? When at the early stage, someone told me you can either own 10% of a 100,000 crore brand or 0% of a 0 crore brand. So it all equates at the end, provided you're building a business that is very, very fundamental from the perspective of actual revenue, actual profit, actual cash flow, good governance, strong ethics, creating products that the consumers love, becoming an iconic brand or a disruptive technology that changes the landscape of the nation at large. Those are the things that matter. And even if you have a 5% or a 1% stake or a 20% stake, you will make more money than you can live with, is how I would say. What So dilution is a very, very last point in the long list of things that you have to do as an entrepreneur.
We'll take one last
Yeah.
question.
So Prashant this side. So I work as an investment banker in Deloitte Financial Advisory Team. So question to Ashish. So is it right to say that specifically for early stage ventures there's an ongoing funding winter, or the correct statement should be that investors are being very selective compared to what it was in 2021 or 22, and and also, is it right to say that in the next 12 months, whatever, that is what we feel, that the funding euphoria will again be on the market? So, yeah, two questions.
Okay, I'll try and make this very simple and quick. There is no funding winter so far as it is early stage. And honestly, what we are calling as funding winter is just a healthy balance between check writing and check receiving. 2021 was a crazy era. I pray we never repeat that again. Or we will have to, after every 21, there'll be a 22, right? So you don't want it. That is nasty. That full vintage of investments that happened probably might not have an IRR. So from people who file long-term capital gains will sell at cost but sold at loss after indexation, right? Those CAs here will know what I'm meaning. And after this, you're saying it will be back again. I hope not. What we need is a healthy balance. And when that balance is lost is when these aberrations happen. Momentum shifting will keep happening. But I think for the right valuations, for the right set of founders and business models, even at slightly later stage, there is money on the table for sure. All through the last 18 months that what we are referring to as the media calls funding winter, some of us in the industry have had a dozen plus of our companies each who have raised capital. We might not raise it at the same price or as much of an inflated price that we would have loved to do by mark to market stories and all that. That's okay, yaar. Let's live with the reality rather than froth.
Just one more question. We're running very short on time, sir.
Sir, there are many chartered accountants from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, and we frequently receive the entrepreneurs coming to our office and asking us that I have a wonderful project, this is a new startup that I want to start. So under such circumstances, in Tier 2 cities or 3 cities, we don't find the venture capitalists. So in cities, we don't find the people, good investors or the venture capitalists. So what should be the effective steps we should take to guide them, help them to get the money?
Sir, there is honestly the early stage ecosystem, there are actually been no barriers in terms of where the person has originated from. The challenge of the early stage investment ecosystem has been that it is very concentrated in 3 large pockets of the country where ecosystems are fully shaped up. Bangalore, because there was tech talent available thanks to the entire services boom courtesy our services majors like Infosys, etc. Right? Wipro, bunch of those. So there was engineering and servicing talent with communication skills, etc., which was well trained. And initial people would come out of that. That's the whole ecosystem creation. There is no bias. If somebody is coming out and they are going to be in front of people here and ask for the capital, I can safely tell you from a data point of view, out of 100, if we have 300 founders funded, minimum 50 to 70%, bare minimum, would be people who are none of these three cities in terms of their origin, birth, and school years. They might have gone to colleges and higher education in one of these three cities, but otherwise none. So there is no disadvantage. It's about being out there. Tell them that if they have an investor roster of choice, one, at an early stage, it's about the founder, not about the banker. And I know I am speaking a slightly wrong statement at the wrong place. But no matter how good the advice is, it is not going to help the founder if he or she himself or herself is not going to be present in front of the investor. And the best way to get to an investor is to identify their successful founders who have done well. Today, social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, everybody is there. People are easily connectable. The 6 degrees of separation is down to 3 or 4. Please identify your path and reach the right set of people and get your story out. So advice should be how to build the plan, what the narrative should be, the coaching should be on those front, but they should do the heavy lifting themselves.
We've now reached the end of the Q&A question answers round. So please be seated. Okay, we've had a brilliant panel, very thought-provoking and very inspiring stories from all our panelists. All of the stories are a testament to the wave of new India, where we are disrupting markets and bringing the force we have never seen before in the country. India is finally being recognized for its tech, for its market, for its dynamic consumption, and for its innovation. And India is now leading the startup hubs in the world. At the Startup Sphere 2023, we celebrate the startup power, and now we are gracing our guests with the mementos for the session. Can I please request CA Dheeraj Khandelwal, CA Chintan Patel, and CA Vikas Jain, who are the regional council members, to now present the mementos. Can we have the mementos around the stage? Okay, the first memento is going to CA Gautam Pai, who is the CEO at Efficacy Capital. Our next memento is going to Mr. Anil Matthew, President Policy Advocacy and Chief Risk Officer at Hindalco Industries Limited. Our next memento is going to Mr. Ajay Thandi, co-founder of Sleepy Owl Coffee. And our last memento of the session is going to Mr. Anil Fafaria, partner at Bloom Ventures. To all the panelists, it's been nothing but a pleasure to have you all here on the session. Can we have all the guests for a group photo now? Okay, to wrap up this session, I request, sir, all of you please sit down for once. Okay, to wrap up the session, we have a word of thanks given by CA Chintan Patel, Regional Council Member, ICAI.
Please, yes. The session was like Startup India, Make in India. We just look at, there's a two combination of the very, very important pillars into the session. And we are having a fortunate enough to have with us the panel, which has been moderated by CA Gautam Pai, and along with him, Mr. Ashish, Mr. Ajay, and Mr. Anil Mathuji. They have done fantastic way where there's a deliberation on the importance of creating ecosystem. And there is also a discussion on the importance of tier 2, tier 3 cities, not only tier 1 cities. Also, there is a very, very important discussions about certain movie dialogues. Risk hai to ishq hai. And that has been one of the most important things, because no one can believe of startup unless there is risk. Everybody sitting here is thinking that how can I become a part of startup? But the most important thing, we should have the risk-taking ability, then it is possible. Also, it has been added with respect to valuation, 2021, which we discussed. there is a bubble of valuation, and now at the end, cash is king. That has been discussed here. So with this brief word, thanks to each one of you, to all of the panelists for sharing the valuable knowledge, and to all of you for patience listening and question answer. Thank you once again.
Before we move to our last session for the day, we have a break of 5 minutes. The Startup Sphere 2023 hosted by WIRC. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now heading to our last session for the day, but this session is going to be super interesting, and it's addressing one of the most talked about industry of today's time, that is content creation, and the role of finance content creators in supporting growth stories of Indian startups. This is about collaborative spirit and partnerships that is one of the key factors for any growth story. But before that, can we have our guest on stage? I request Mr. Udyan Adhye, founder and creator, Udyan on Money, with a following of over 1,20,000 people on stage with us. Can we have a round of applause for the guest? Next up, we have CA Anant Ladda, a content creator with an audience of over 2.3 million on YouTube and 4 lakh plus on Instagram, who is also a founder of Invest Arch for Kal. Then we have Mr. Shavir Bansal, who is founder of Bakifyed and has an Instagram audience of more than 7 lakh people. Now we have Ms. Imani Chaudhary, who is founder of Financial Wines with an Instagram audience of 6,50,000 plus. Please clap your hands. Okay, we also have Regional Council member CA Vikas Jain here. So can you please join us on the stage? I also request we welcome Vishal Doshi sir on the stage. Please be seated. Okay, now we are starting the event. Can I please ask the moderator for the session, Mr. Udyan Adhye, to take over the session from here now? Over to you, sir.
Am I audible? Is this working? Yeah, I think it is. So, good afternoon, all of you. Glad to have you along. And thank you to all the panelists for joining me as well. In the primary goal of this conversation we're going to have is the kind of role that finance creators can play in shaping up the narratives around Indian startups. So, and the reason that becomes important, right, is because if you think about it, today, all businesses, literally each and every business, whether it's a one-person business, whether it's a business that's employing lakhs of people, each business is a media business because you have to put out what you're doing with respect to your work, and that's how people get to know you, right? But the problem is that there is a trust deficit that's present when it comes to brands and companies. Because just think about it, right? When was the last time you came across a big brand, a legacy brand, on Instagram or YouTube and absolutely loved what they were doing? I mean, you always have that.
I'm very interrupt. I'll have to introduce Mr. Anuj Goyal, who is a Central Council member of ICAI on the stage. Okay, now the guests are seated, so you can restart.
So, long story short, every company is a media company and brands are not trusted. That is when finance creators come in because they add the emotional, trustworthy quotient to how information is shared, right? The classic example of this is if you think about the biggest content creator in the world, if you think about it, Joe Rogan, right? Joe Rogan's each and every episode is viewed by 11 million people. If you combine Fox and CNN, they don't even reach 3 million people every day for the prime time show. So that's the power of content when there's a genuine voice that's enabling it. So I'm not the only one saying it. People much more accomplished than me, people much more powerful than me have said it, including the government recently. So I know Anand and Himani were recently involved in a discussion with the government of India So, Honorable Minister Shri Piyush Goyal ji, he had invited the top creators across different fields in India and had engaged in a dialogue with them. So, Anand, I would love to start off with you and would love to know how was that experience, and more importantly, what was the dialogue around at that stage?
Hi everyone. कैसे हो आप लोग? Is it okay if I talk हिंदी इंग्लिश मिक्स चलेगा? चलेगा ना? ताकि क्या है बात हम लोग क्योंकि एक क्लोज ऑडियंस है, सो जो भी हम बात करें हम लोग एकदम कनेक्ट कर पाए. This was actually my third interaction with official government, and that was just because of the love of my subscriber family. I feel it was not me who went there and who represented. I think it is my subscribers family because of whom मैं इतनी स्टेज पे जा पाया. Firstly, we were called upon by Honorable Lok Sabha Speaker sir. He even ensured that we had a good discussion with him around what is happening around in this industry. He even took us to Lok Sabha and the President House and showed us around, and it was a beautiful experience. Then I got an opportunity to meet the Honorable Finance Minister. Obviously, that was just before the budget, so couldn't talk much about budget and stuff because of the obvious compliance issues. But that was also very exciting for me कि यार एक ऐसे person जिनको हम as an Indian उनको look forward करते हैं कि पूरे इंडिया का बजट, एक हमारा बजट होता है कि भाई हमें महीने में 25,000 खर्चा करना है, 50,000 खर्चा करना है, या फिर 1 लाख रुपीज वी वांट टू स्पेंड इन अ मंथ. वो पूरे देश का डिसाइड करते हैं कि पूरे देश की जीडीपी का कितना खर्चा कहाँ पे होगा. सो दैट्स अ बिग थिंग. तो वहाँ पे एक अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली थी बिकॉज ऑफ दी सब्सक्राइबर्स फैमिली. तो बड़ा आई फील ब्लेस्ड एंड सोचा एक बार तो पिंच किया कि यार कहाँ थे हम लोग, कहाँ आ गए हैं बिकॉज ऑफ दिस कंटेंट क्रिएशन. सो एंड फाइनली पीयूष गोयल सर इन्वाइटेड एंड शी वॉज ऑल्सो देयर. आई एम वेरी श्योर उनका एक्सपीरियंस बहुत अमेजिंग होगा बिकॉज 5 घंटे स्ट्रेट ही वॉज discussing with us all the issues and anything and everything we wanted to talk about. There are a lot of irregularities which are going on in the market. वो सब वहाँ पे discuss हुआ point by point. So it gives us a good opportunity and a good platform. I still see जैसे हम लोग अभी यहाँ पे आए, यहाँ पे आके ही जैसे ही कोई मिलता है और बोलता है कि यार I follow your content and चलो एक फोटो लेते हैं. It's a small thing, ठीक है, बट रियलाइज होता है कि यार कितना बड़ा ऑब्लिगेशन है. ऐसे इवेंट आई यूजुअली अटेंड एटलीस्ट वंस अ मंथ टू रियलाइज कि हम लोग जो काम कर रहे हैं ये कोई एक ऐसा प्रोडक्ट नहीं है किसी ने यूज किया, फेंक दिया और कोई 100 रुपए वेस्ट हो गए किसी के. हम लोग यहाँ पे फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट बेच रहे हैं या फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट की बात कर रहे हैं. आई शुड नॉट यूज दी वर्ड बेच रहे हैं, बट फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट की बात कर रहे हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल किसी को एक गलत टर्म इंश्योरेंस ले लिया किसी ने बिकॉज मैंने जो क्राइटेरियाज बताए थे वो गलत थे, एंड बाई चांस उसको कुछ हो जाता है तो हिज ओन होल फैमिली विल सफर. प्रोबेबली 1 या 2 जनरेशन खराब हो सकती है. सो जब यहाँ पे लोग मिलते हैं वो बताते हैं कि आपकी हम बात सुन रहे हैं, तो रियलाइज होता है कि यार जो ओनर्स है हमारे ऊपर, दैट इज बिगर देन व्हाट वी थिंक. और एक वापस से हमें थॉट करने के लिए बिलीव कर रहा है, प्री प्रोसेस करने के लिए हमारे को एक स्टैंडिंग देता है कि यार तुम्हें वापस से देखना है कि तुम क्या कर रहे हो और तुम सही तो कर रहे हो ना. सो दैट इज द ओपनिंग रिमार्क फ्रॉम माई साइड.
And Himani would love to know, what your takeaway from the event was and what was discussed as well.
Okay, so is it working? Am I audible? I was very excited. मतलब, okay, thank you. I was very excited. मतलब मुझे लग नहीं रहा था कि गवर्नमेंट इस चीज़ में इंटरेस्टेड भी होगी कि क्रिएटर्स को क्या बोलना है, right? When I went there and I saw that government जिसका primary हमारा preconceived notion होता है कि they think about themselves first and then about us, but वहाँ पे 6 घंटे मिस्टर पीयूष गोयल ने हमसे पूछा कि तुमको क्या इश्यूज़ हैं और तुम्हारी कम्युनिटी को क्या इश्यूज़ हो रहे हैं. सो फॉर एग्जांपल एज अ फाइनेंस कंटेंट क्रिएटर मैं बहुत सारी वीडियोस बनाती हूँ गवर्नमेंट स्कीम्स के ऊपर, लोन्स के ऊपर. तो हमने उनको बोला कि ऑन द डेटा लेवल इट लुक्स वेरी नाइस कि ठीक है बहुत सारे अकाउंट्स खुले, बहुत सारा ट्रेड हुआ, ग्रोथ हुई, बट ऑन द ग्राउंड लेवल लोगों को प्रॉब्लम्स होती हैं. जो छोटी छोटी स्कीम्स आप निकालते हो वो बैंक के पास जाता है, बैंक बोलता है गवर्नमेंट से कोई नोटिफिकेशन नहीं आई, बाद में आना. तो ये चीज़ें हमने उनके साथ शेयर करी. हमने उनके साथ स्कैम्स के बारे में शेयर किया कि क्या क्या स्कैम्स एक्चुअली हो रहे हैं लोगों के साथ. ऑन अ डेली बेसिस मेरे को मैसेज आ रहे हैं कि तुम मेरे 1 लाख रुपए खा गई, because of the scams, right? Because of the fake profiles. And we also spoke about the platforms that are actually banned by RBI, but वो अभी भी वर्क कर रहे हैं continuously by doing something, अपना डोमेन चेंज कर दिया या कुछ कर दिया. तो वो एक्चुअली जो होलिस्टिक लेवल पे गवर्नमेंट देखती है, उनको हमने एक ग्राउंड रिपोर्ट दी जो हमको हमारी कम्युनिटी से मिलती है, एंड उसके ऊपर उन्होंने इसे बोलते हैं ना अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स दिया, उसी टाइम एक्शन लिया कि हाँ हम एक टीम बनाएंगे, एक प्रपोजल बनाएंगे, एक पॉलिसी बनाएंगे उसके अराउंड, ताकि मतलब एक तरीके से जो आपकी वॉइस है हम डायरेक्टली वहाँ तक लेके जा पाएँ. सो आई वॉज वेरी एक्साइटेड फॉर दैट सेशन और बहुत बोलने का मौका मिला. लाइक लिटरली मिनिस्टर वाज लाइक मैं यहीं पे बैठा हूँ 12 बजे तक, तुमको जो बोलना है तुम बोलो, एंड दैट वाज वेरी एक्साइटिंग, एंगेजिंग ऑल्सो.
मजे की बात बताऊं, मुझे जेन्युइनली लगा था कि बात तो हो गई है, उसका होगा क्या, कुछ भी नहीं होगा.
Exactly.
टुडे मॉर्निंग ओनली आई गॉट अ कॉल फ्रॉम देयर डिपार्टमेंट, जहाँ पे उन्होंने 5 सेपरेट डिपार्टमेंट्स को वहाँ पे लाइन अप कर दिया था टू टॉक अबाउट अ पर्टिकुलर आरबीआई बैंड ऐप जो
Right.
इन्होंने बात करी. एंड दे वर लाइक आनंद कब टाइम लेना है, लेट अस गैदर सम एविडेंसेस एंड लेट अस टॉक अबाउट द पॉइंट व्हिच यू वर डिस्कसिंग विद अस ऑन दैट डे. सो आई थॉट कि यार हम सिर्फ बात करने गए, मुझे नहीं पता था वहाँ पे इतनी जल्दी एक्शन भी होंगे. सो दैट वाज गुड. आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट कि गवर्नमेंट या मैं पार्टीज की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट कि गवर्नमेंट इन एक्शन, जो अभी ऑलरेडी गवर्नमेंट है, क्या वो, क्योंकि दे आर रिप्रेजेंटिंग अस, बाय द पीपल, ऑफ द पीपल, फॉर द पीपल, राइट? सो दे आर रिप्रेजेंटिंग अस. सो जब वो एक्चुअल फील होता है कि हाँ यार दे आर रिप्रेजेंटिंग अस, देन इट फील्स गुड.
Absolutely, because that's just the kind of I would say recognition that content creators get, because the government also knows that there is a lot of education that is happening, and at the same time people are listening, because if the people weren't listening, then the government wouldn't start that dialogue. Which brings me to something that is very specific to this panel discussion topic, and that is around how different companies in India, now since it's a personal finance content creator panel, how different fintech companies can work with finance creators to a greater extent. Because up until now, I think we are just scratching the surface, right? You see fintech companies doing brand deals, sponsorship deals with finance creators, but how can that relationship expand to a much higher degree? So would love to, Shafir, maybe you can.
हाय गाइस. सो अभी तक हम यही देख रहे हैं कि जो भी ब्रांड्स आते हैं दे आर मोर फॉर ब्रांडिंग या अच्छा साइनअप्स करवा दो, बट आई थिंक दिस पोटेंशियली कैन गो टू अ मच डीपर लेवल. लेट मी जस्ट एक्सप्लेन दिस विद एन एग्जांपल. से अ स्टार्टअप इज इन देयर 0 to 1 जर्नी, जहाँ अभी प्रोडक्ट तो सोचो, प्रोडक्ट का तो भूल जाओ, अभी प्रॉब्लम भी आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पाए क्या सॉल्व करनी है, तो अभी प्रॉब्लम स्टेज पे हैं वो. So what as content creators, we have a lot of data that is very rich. So we worked with one company where we conducted a lot of surveys, and each question used to get like 10,000, 15,000 responses. So that is, imagine the richness of that data. मतलब इतनी अच्छी insight उसमें से filter out होके आती थी, and we conducted about 20 questions, and the problem which came out of that 20 questions was exact pinpoint. It helped the startup to pinpoint on the problem and start building solutions accordingly. I think that so for that customer insight, I think startups बहुत finance content creators बहुत अच्छा role play कर सकते हैं. Apart from that, हमने for startups in their 1 to 10 journey. So there was this company who was building a Demat account for people to invest in US. So उनका product बहुत अच्छा था, सब कुछ बहुत अच्छा था, but उनको customer sign up में बहुत problem हो रहा था. उनका product fit हो गया था, but they were finding tough to get customers. So we made a couple of videos for them, and comment section में भर के यही comments आए कि product तो बहुत अच्छा है, but sign up करने के बाद हफ्ते भर का time लग जा रहा है for us to invest. So that was a huge turn off for the audience. So we passed on this feedback. So I think ये feedback के बाद the startup iterated, and now they've fixed that problem. So I think gaining that quick customer feedback, that is what finance content creators can effectively do. So these are the 2 points I think where finance content creators can help startups.
And in fact, if you think about it, we get real-time feedback, right?
correct,
Which is literally when we post, there's a comment if there's something good or bad about what you're talking about.
Correct.
So how do you think that data, right? I'm not talking about private data of people, but just the sentiments. How do you think that could be used by all sorts of companies, not just fintech companies?
I think not all comments or sentiments have to be incorporated in your product. People, लोग सब type के comments करते हैं. So it is very important to crystallize the emotion that is coming out of that comment. Whether, you know, the mass is saying that or it is just one singled out person who's making that comment. So it is very important कि अच्छा ठीक है, comments तो आ गए, बहुत सारे आ गए, but इसमें से क्या तुमको निकालना है, insight क्या निकालनी है. That is, I think, what content creators can do very well. And on very fast feedback loop.
And Himani or Anand, have you noticed something along the same lines?
या डेफिनेटली फीडबैक इतना मिलता है, इतना चाहिए भी नहीं होता है फीडबैक. ठीक है, नेगेटिव कमेंट्स बहुत सारे आते हैं, नेगेटिव डीएम्स बहुत सारे आते हैं, गालियाँ बहुत सारी आती हैं. ठीक है, तो उसको हमें फिल्टर आउट करना होता है. हर चीज़ को हम इक्वल वेटेज नहीं दे सकते, बट उस हिसाब से हमें वेटेज देनी है कि हाँ थोड़ा सा हम समझ लेते हैं कि जो बंदा बोल रहा है सही बोल रहा है. कंस्ट्रक्टिव क्रिटिसिज्म भी मिलता है हमको. और इन सब चीज़ों से ना मुझे सिर्फ एक ही बात समझ में आई है उदयन, कि पहले मैं कंटेंट बनाती थी कि मुझे क्या लगता है ऑडियंस को पता होना चाहिए. अब मैंने उसको पूरा ट्विस्ट कर दिया है कि ऑडियंस क्या मुझसे जानना चाहती है. इट्स नॉट अबाउट मी, इट्स अबाउट देम. तो इस फीडबैक से एक क्रक्स ये निकल के आया है कि हाँ अगर इनको पर्टिकुलर रिस्की एसेट्स में नहीं डालना है, वो बोल रहे हैं नहीं मैम आप ऐसी वीडियोस बना रहे हो कि इसमें बहुत रिस्क है, तो मुझे पता है कि नेक्स्ट वीडियो मुझे एफडी, गोल्ड, रियल एस्टेट इसके ऊपर लगाना है. तो उस फीडबैक को मैं यूज़ करती हूँ एंड आई ट्राई टू वर्क विद ओनली दोज ब्रांड्स जो मेरे कम्युनिटी को हेल्प कर पाए. अब कल को कोई बिटकॉइन वाला बंदा आएगा, मैं बोलूँगी यार तेरे को कोई साइन अप नहीं मिलेगा बिकॉज माई कम्युनिटी इज़ नॉट इंटरेस्टेड दैट वे. तो हाँ, फीडबैक इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एंड फिल्टरिंग आउट इज़ ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बट इट गिव्स यू अ हिंट कि इतने लाखों जो लोग फॉलो कर रहे हैं आपको, चाहे वो यू नो जो भी क्रिटिसिज्म दे रहे हैं उसका एक क्रक्स क्या निकल के आ रहा है. सो दैट इज़ व्हाट आई फील. डू यू?
मेरे दादाजी हमेशा एक बात कहते हैं, ही ऑलवेज सेज वन थिंग, दैट गाली और ताली साथ में मिलती है. सो इट्स एब्सोल्युटली ओके कि हम लोग कुछ गाली भी ले रहे हैं बिकॉज वी आर गेटिंग द प्लॉस ऑल्सो. एंड right now what I feel is, even as a student, I think a lot of CA students are sitting here, right? CA students, CS aspirants, people who have already done CS. Okay, amazing. या तो CA student है या CA है. So as a CA, I am also CA. So what I feel is, as a CA or as a content creator, we always feel कि हम क्या बेच सकते हैं, हम क्या प्रोडक्ट को प्रमोट करें, ब्रांड डील्स करें. But I feel the biggest brand sitting out here is you yourself. But in life, we underestimate one person the most, and that is we ourselves. So don't underestimate yourself. कभी भी तुम अपने नंबर से कॉल करने की कोशिश करोगे ना, you can call anyone and everyone. From your ex to your next, you can call everyone, but you cannot call yourself because you are too busy for world. This should not happen कि यार हम लोग सिर्फ ये सोच रहे हैं कि हम ब्रांड डील्स करें, हम कौन से ब्रांड को प्रमोट कर रहे हैं. I feel why don't you guys become a brand in yourself? अगर हमारे को पता है वी हैव द ऑडियंस, ब्रांड के लिए सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट क्या होता है कि एक तो ट्रस्ट होना चाहिए. वो आपको आपकी डिग्री से या तो मिल जाएगा बिकॉज आप लोग अभी सीए कर रहे हैं, या फिर मिल चुका है तो आपके पास ट्रस्ट फैक्टर इज ऑलरेडी देयर बिकॉज सीए इंस्टीट्यूट ने आपको ऑलरेडी बताया है कि यार ये सीए है जिसने वन ऑफ द टफेस्ट एग्जाम ऑफ द वर्ल्ड क्रैक किया है. Second is reach. If you're a content creator, you have reach. People are trusting you. So instead of promoting a brand, why don't you become the brand? Nitin was there in the morning. So Nitin के साथ recently, I think 6 months back, Nitin और निखिल के साथ हम लोग का एक डिनर था बैंगलोर में. वहाँ पे हम लोग बैठे थे, सब डिस्कशन हो रहा था. And that was an amazing forum जहाँ पे हम थे. There were some common people also, invite basis जो लोग invited थे. And there were some creators में मैं था, ऋषभ भैया from Label Law Advisor, he was there. And Nitin Kamath brothers and some or many founders were standing in a complete circle, and we were discussing stuff. When we were discussing stuff since morning, I was with Nikhil, and I was asking Nikhil कि यार Nikhil कुछ tip दो यार. I'm meeting you, I should get something in return कि यार मेरे को ये आपने life changing चीज बता दी, कुछ tip दो. वो कहता है यार क्या टिप यार, तुम फालतू की बातें कर रहे हो, चल रहा था. Evening में when dinner was happening, people were coming around us and clicking pictures with labor law advisor and me, and I was feeling awkward कि भाई सामने billionaire खड़ा है, तुम billionaire को देखो ना, तुम इधर क्यों आ रहे हो. मतलब I was feeling awkward and I said कि यार निखिल भाई थोड़ा सा अजीब लग रहा है, I'm so sorry यार, ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है. And he was like, you were asking me tip? No, this is your tip. Build on your social capital. People are coming and clicking pictures with all of us. Maybe we, because we have built something beautiful जो शायद कोई नहीं कर पाया, and you because you are having social capital that people are trusting you, people know you, people are following you. So build on to that thing. So that was a life-changing advice for me. This advice was given to me last year. From that day till today, this is something which I have communicated to a lot of people. कि social capital will be the next big thing in next 10 years. कि आपकी social capital कितनी है, कैसी है. So वहाँ पे focus करो, and if you can build a brand on yourself कि खुद का brand है, खुद का product है, because then you can even check अगर कुछ दिक्कत हो रही है तो you can immediately hire a team and ask them कि चल बेटा तू ठीक कर. You are not dependent on third person. So become a brand in yourself. That is something which I believe every person who is sitting out here has a potential.
Absolutely. And I think what ends up happening is all of us, like for example, many CAs here, right? As Anand said, you've cracked one of the most toughest exam possibly in the world. You are smart. And the people around you know that. But when you're creating content, I think the world knows about it because they can interact with your skill set. One thing, Anand, that you said about how content creators, how you were being recognized by all these people, and you felt a little awkward at the start. But that kind of influence also carries a lot of responsibility, right? Because as you were saying that, while suggesting a term insurance, if you suggest something wrong and you're talking about something incorrectly, that person is possibly going to end up buying that wrong term insurance. So I would love to hear from each of you about this. What do you think could be one thing that not just you, but I feel as a community of content creators, we can improve upon so that we just level up our game in terms of making sure the trust is never breached, and at the same time, continuous value is being delivered.
I'll start क्या? मैं बोलूँ?
Go ahead, yes.
I think we should always upskill ourselves. चाहे हम कोई भी particular course या degree कर लें, हमको upskilling करना नहीं बंद करना चाहिए कि ठीक है मैंने ये कर लिया, अब मैंने कुछ नहीं करना, अब मैं बस काम करूँगा. नहीं, एक upskilling और एक unbiasedness. कोई भी piece of content बना रहे हो, चाहे वो written content है, audio content है, video content है, be unbiased. उसके अंदर cons भी डालो, pros भी डालो. And third is disclose everything. Be transparent. किसी को फर्क नहीं पड़ता, आई एम प्रिटी श्योर आप लोगों को इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ता होगा कि किसी ने पेड कोलैबोरेशन ऊपर डाला है, नीचे डाला है, नहीं डाला है. नो वन केयर्स, बट यू विल फील बेटर कि ठीक है मेरी कम्युनिटी को सब कुछ पता है, जिससे ट्रस्ट बिल्ड होता है. सो आई थिंक अगर आप अपस्किल करोगे, अनबायस्ड रहोगे और ट्रांसपेरेंसी रहेगी, तो एज अ क्रिएटर लाइक यू विल बी ऑल्सो सेफ एंड योर कम्युनिटी विल ऑल्सो बी सेफ.
आई थिंक काफ़ी कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स को ना जब एक बार डिसेंट सब्सक्राइबर बेस हो जाता है, गॉड कॉम्प्लेक्स आ जाता है. उनको लगता है कि हम जो कंटेंट बना रहे हैं सब सही है, और कोई पिन पॉइंट कर देना कि तुमने यार ये बात बोली थी, ये तो एकदम सही नहीं है, ये देखो इसके फैक्ट्स हैं, वो कंटेंट क्रिएटर की ना ईगो क्रश हो जाती है. आई थिंक इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू स्टे हम्बल, नॉट हैव दिस गॉड कॉम्प्लेक्स. गलतियाँ होती हैं, सबसे होती हैं, हमसे भी बहुत हुई है. It is very important to accept your mistakes out in the public and say यार हमने ये recommend किया था, हमसे ये गलती हो गई थी, ये सही नहीं है. It is very important to apologize. It is okay to come out in the public and say यार हमने ये गलती करी है, it's fine. I think that is what every at least finance content creator should follow.
इतनी श्रद्धा से आप सभी हमें देख रहे हैं अभी, जैसे सुबह के 4 बजे हो, हम प्रवचन दे रहे हैं, भक्तजन श्रद्धा में लीने. आप लोग हंस सकते हैं, 32 mm की स्माइल हो जाए यार, प्लीज यार, कम ऑन यार. मतलब वी आर अ क्लोज ग्रुप, एक छोटा सा ग्रुप है, हम लोग डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं, इट्स लाइक अ फैमिली. ऐसे श्रद्धा से मत देखिए. आधे लोग तो वो कहते हैं ना कि श्रोता सोता है, वो वाली फील मत दो यार. लेट्स have some fun. Let's have some good discussion, and probably we have good time left with us to discuss something fruitful. See, I always say one thing, and I'm very clear about it. I'm not the smartest of the lot. मेरे से स्मार्ट बहुत लोग हैं, मेरे से इंटेलिजेंट बहुत लोग हैं. दिस इज समथिंग विच आई हैव टोल्ड ऑन माय यूट्यूब चैनल मल्टीपल टाइम्स कि मैं स्मार्टेस्ट नहीं हूँ, मैं सबसे ज़्यादा अच्छे दिखने वाला नहीं हूँ, मैं सबसे ज़्यादा इंटेलिजेंट नहीं हूँ, या फिर मैं सबसे ज़्यादा रिसर्च नहीं हूँ. आई एक्सेप्ट एवरीथिंग, बट आई एम द मोस्ट केयरिंग वन which you will find anywhere on social media. This is something which I have made commitment to my small family which I have कि भाई मेरे से केयरिंग आदमी तुम्हें ज़्यादा नहीं मिलेगा, इंटेलिजेंट स्मार्ट मिलेगा, वो तुम देख लो यार. अब choice is yours यार, मतलब it's completely upon you, and I accept it because कितना भी आपको लगे कि आप अच्छा कर रहे हो, there will always be someone who is doing better and bigger things than you, and it's absolutely okay. Everyone is running their own races, and you don't need to win each and every race of this world. You can probably run your own race and be the most caring one and be happy about it. So that is my take on it.
Anand, I'm going to take what you said very seriously, and I'm going to open up one question for the audience right now. We'll maybe take more later on, but one question from the audience for now. Whoever wants to go, just put your hand up. Person at the back. We'll come to you later.
Hello. Just a small question. I've recently started sharing my content on finance. Say last 4 to 5 months. I'm not able to reach much audience as of now. I've just completed say almost 40 videos, sharing more on taxation. So how to, if you can advise how to go ahead with like building a community, say everyone as a finance creator, everyone wants that to build it fast. So is there any way we can move fast in sharing?
Don't do it fast. Building a strong community takes time. Put in that time. It's okay. कितना टाइम? 3 महीने हुआ ना अभी, कुछ भी नहीं है 3-4 महीने. जब 1 साल 1.5 साल हो जाएगा ना, तब उसके बाद सोचना कि अब ये करना है कि नहीं करना. उसके बाद भी जब रिजल्ट नहीं आएगा, तब सोचना. Good things take time. Go so.
मैं आपको बस एक ही टिप दूंगी, जो प्रॉब्लम और जो गलती मैंने करी थी, वही चीज़ कि आप ये देखो कि आपके जो क्लाइंट्स हैं उनको क्या जानना है, ठीक है, आपकी टारगेट ऑडियंस को क्या जानना है, ताकि कल को अगर आपकी कोई वीडियो चलती भी है तो आपकी टारगेट ऑडियंस ही आपको फॉलो कर रही है. तो अगर आप कोई ऐसी वीडियो बना रहे हो जो आपको लग रहा है वायरल हो जाएगी या ये हो जाएगा, डोंट थिंक फ्रॉम दैट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, क्योंकि अभी आपको अपना इस तरीके से इमेज बनाना है कि लोग क्लाइंट्स आपके पास आएँ, तो उनके प्रॉब्लम्स के सोल्यूशन बनाओ विद रिस्पेक्ट टू वीडियोस. एक कंटेंट टू कॉमर्स स्ट्रैटेजी फॉलो करो. दैट इज़ लाइक माय टिप फॉर यू.
घर की बात बताऊं, फाइनेंस में मत बनाओ एक स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक पे. फाइनेंस में भी नीश चूज कर लो. मैं एक चीज बोलता हूँ, दिस इज नॉट माई लाइन्स, दीज आर जाकिर खान्स लाइन्स. जाकिर भाई की लाइन है. ही ऑलवेज सेज कि अभी व्यूज की लड़ाई नहीं है यार, व्यूज की लड़ाई खत्म हुए हुए जमाने हो गए. देयर वाज अ टाइम कि रसोड़े में कौन था आता है और वो साल भर तक ट्रेंडिंग हो जाता है. वो टाइम गया. फिर आया टाइम जिसमें 1 महीने तक ट्रेंडिंग कंटेंट जा रहा था. अब आ गया है टाइम जिसमें 1 हफ्ते का ट्रेंडिंग कंटेंट जाता है. सो इफ यू वांट व्यूज, आप ट्रेंडिंग कंटेंट भी बनाओ, आपको व्यूज मिल जाएंगे. बट लोग उस ट्रेंड को याद रखेंगे कि यार ये एक ट्रेंड आया था जिसमें हजारों क्रिएटर ने बनाए थे और आपने भी, XYZ and some more. But if you really want to be remembered as a creator, create something specific. For example, you spoke about taxation. Right now, there is hardly 2 or 3 channels who are dedicated to talking about taxation. You become the next big thing. कि सिर्फ taxation में मैं बात करूंगा, nothing else. Be specific. Life में what happens is we run after views. We see कि अच्छा इसका कौन सा वीडियो चला, चल अपन भी सेम बना देते हैं. उसमें आपको ऑडियंस मिल जाएगी, पर रेलेवेंट ऑडियंस ही मिलेगी. फॉर एग्जाम्पल रणविजय से हम लोग मिले थे. रणविजय क्या बोलता है भाई कि मेरे पास स्नीकर्स है, मेरी स्नीकर्स की कम्युनिटी बनी हुई है जो मुझे फॉलो कर रही है, और वो डाई हार्ड फॉलोअर्स है मेरे, चाहे वो 50,000 होंगे, बट व्हेनेवर आई पोस्ट समथिंग अबाउट स्नीकर्स, दे विल मेक श्योर कि दे आर कमेंटिंग ऑन इट बिकॉज दे वांट टू बिल्ड ऑन दैट कम्युनिटी. इन द सेम वे, you don't want to be relevant for everyone, but you want to be specific and be relevant to a very specific audience जो आपको प्यार करेगी. अगर आपके बहुत बार होता है मिलियन लोग होते हैं और मिलने कोई नहीं आता, उसकी जगह आप सोचो आपके 50,000 लोग हैं, उसमें से भी सब आपसे मिलना चाह रहे हैं, तो वो ऑडियंस बिल्ड करो. एंड टैक्सेशन इज नेक्स्ट बिग थिंग. आई थिंक
I started in GST. I have almost 20 videos on GST only. So I'll take your advice.
Be specific. GST फिर इनकम टैक्स पे तो 500 वीडियो बन जाएंगे आपके. Be specific और सिर्फ नहीं आएंगे ना, जिस दिन आएंगे सब पे एक साथ व्यूज आएंगे. मुझे नहीं पता, वो कहते हैं बहुत रातों की मेहनत के बाद वो रात आती है जिसमें लोग कहते हैं आप रातों रात सक्सेसफुल हो गए. आपकी वो कौन सी रात होगी मुझे नहीं पता, बट देयर विल बी वन फाइन डे जहां पे ऑटोमेटिकली यू विल सी कि अरे ये क्या हो रहा है. आप पूरी रात सोओगे नहीं कि अचानक से क्या हुआ, मैं भी नहीं सोया था, कि क्यों हो रहा है, ये क्या हुआ, ऐसा ऐसा मैंने तो कुछ किया नहीं, और इसी वीडियो पे क्यों हुआ, ये तो बहुत खराब था. बट दैट इज पार्ट ऑफ द गेम.
Thank you so much all. Thank you.
वन मोर एडवाइस, जब हमने कंटेंट बनाना शुरू किया था ना, सो फॉर द फर्स्ट 9 months, 9 month में इंस्टाग्राम पे आई थिंक 10,000 सब्सक्राइबर्स थे और यूट्यूब पे 2500. आई डोंट नो इफ़ यू कॉल दैट अ गुड ग्रोथ या कैसा ग्रोथ है, बट हमने एक वीडियो थी बेस्ट क्रेडिट कार्ड्स 2021, उसके लिए मैंने पर्सनली 1 महीना काम किया था. आई बिल्ड दैट इंटायर मॉडल जहाँ पे 300 क्रेडिट कार्ड की एंट्री करी मैंने, और सबके रिवॉर्ड पॉइंट्स और सब कुछ. आई नोटेड डाउन एवरीथिंग एंड दैट वाज लाइक अ ह्यूज एक्सेल फाइल. आई वर्कड ऑन दैट फॉर 1 month एंड इट गॉट लाइक 36 व्यूज और समथिंग. आई वाज शॉक्ड कि यार ये क्या चल रहा है यार, 1 महीना काम किया और 36 व्यूज. बट वन फाइन डे आफ्टर वो रात आई एंड दैट वीडियो टुक ऑफ. वो एक सुहानी रात आई एंड दैट वीडियो टुक ऑफ. नाउ वी आर वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट क्रेडिट कार्ड चैनल्स फॉर यूट्यूब. क्रिएट दैट niche.
And in fact, I think just to sort of add to that, like Shavir, you said for the first 9 months, your subscriber base wasn't growing as such in the larger scheme of things.
Correct.
Yeah. I would love to know Himani and Anant. He's creating content for 3 months. पहले 3 महीनों में, what was the growth like?
500 फॉलोअर हो गए थे मेरे 3 महीने में.
देखो यार, मेरा और कभी भी ऐसा था ही नहीं कि मेरे को जनता इकट्ठी करनी है, ये मेरा कभी भी पर्पस नहीं था. आई यूज्ड टू डू फिजिकल फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी सेशन which got recognized by Rajasthan government twice. I reached a number of 25,000 people in physical sessions, doing multiple sessions, and I wanted to make it big. For making that initiative big, I started making videos on YouTube, and it took some time because initially my strategy was wrong. I used to sit down, hire a cameraman. He used to come once a week or maybe once a month, and we used to shoot like 50, 20, 30, 40, 50 videos, and फिर वो धीरे धीरे जाते थे वीकली 1 video. आई थॉट कि इफ मिस्टर बीस्ट कैन गेट वायरल posting 1 video a month, why can't I be the next big thing? So that obviously didn't work out. So it's a journey and it's everyone's journey. सब लोग अपनी अपनी रेस में एक अलग जरिए से, एक अलग तरीके से, हो सकता है सबको यहाँ से जाना वहाँ पे है. एक जना है जो पूरा घूम के जाएगा कि यार I'll enjoy my life, I'll enjoy everything, I'll enjoy what's happening around. वो कहते हैं ना कि कुछ लोगों को कामयाबी में सुकून मिला, कुछ लोगों को सुकून में कामयाबी मिली. So you have to decide that what is important for you, and then decide a race for you and then run for that race. So initially I also took a lot of time. YouTube gave me YouTubers Creator on the Rise Award. That was on May 2000. I think that was in Feb 2020. Post that, things went well.
There you go. At times, it may seem like, I'll just come to you. It may seem like the people on the stage, got running right away with what they built. As we see, it wasn't the case with literally anyone. You had a question?
My question is, why do most of the creators जो भी आजकल videos बना रहे हैं, तो उनके पीछे जो audience होती है वो क्यों कहती है ये तो time pass करता है. Basically वो creators जितने भी irrespective of finance or technology or cryptocurrency ऊपर बात करता है, why don't the audience give them due respect and see YouTube as also as a profession?
मैं बताता हूँ, देखो क्या होता है, 90-95% ऑडियंस प्यार करती है, दैट इज ओके. जो ऑडियंस जलती है ना, उसका रीजन बताता हूँ मैं, और वो जलने का रीजन बहुत सही है. यू विल ऑल्सो फील जेलस पोस्ट दैट रीजन. लेट मी एक्सप्लेन इट टू यू. यू फील कि यार ये हमारे जैसा तो दिखता है, बल्कि मेरे से खराब ही दिखता है. इसने डिग्री भी कोई एक्स्ट्रा नहीं ले रखी, मैंने भी सीए कर रखा है, इसने भी सीए कर रखा है, तो इसको अचानक से इतने पैसे, इतने व्यूज, इतने फॉलोअर्स क्यों आ रहे हैं? सो दैट इज द जेलेसी व्हिच इज वर्किंग आउट देयर. इट्स एब्सोल्युटली ओके, दैट इज ह्यूमन नेचर. आई एम ऑल्सो जेलस ऑफ समवन एल्स कि यार ये ऐसा क्यों हो गया है. सो वो ह्यूमन टेंडेंसी होती है कि, और सबसे पहले जब आपको रियलाइज होता है कि यार इसमें कुछ स्पेशल नहीं है, जेन्युइनली स्पेशल नहीं है हम में से किसी में भी, या किसी को भी तुम आइडलाइज कर रहे हो, उसमें कोई स्पेशल बात नहीं है. प्रोबेबली कुछ एफर्ट्स उसने ज्यादा कर दी है, या फिर प्रोबेबली ही वाज एट द राइट टाइम एट द राइट मोमेंट एंड थिंग्स क्लिक. सो उसकी वजह से कई बार जेलसी आती है, स्पेशली इन दोज पीपल हु आर नॉट एबल टू मेक इट टिल नाउ, एंड या तो मेहनत नहीं कर रही या फिर लकी खराब है, अब मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता. बट उस कारण से ये फैक्टर आता है यार. मतलब आप सोचो ना यार, बैठा तो अभी फॉर एग्जाम्पल मेरे कुछ ऐसे सीनियर लोग हैं, मैं नाम किसी का भी नहीं लूंगा, ऑब्वियसली इट्स अ फोरम. सो वो अभी भी मेरे से, मेरे दोस्त पुराने दोस्त आप सबसे ज्यादा जलेंगे. उनको लगे यार यार ये क्या है यार, 2 गाली और देंगे वहां पे कि यार व्हाट इज दिस यार. मतलब ऐसा कुछ क्या किया कि इसने अचानक से, ही हैज अ लग्जूरियस लाइफ, ही इज रोमिंग अराउंड एवरी डे, वी सी हिम एट अ न्यू प्लेस हैविंग फन एंड स्टिल ही इज मेकिंग मनी. सो दैट्स अ jealousy factor which comes in, I feel.
Sometimes it's also constructive criticism. Sometimes it's also constructive criticism. For example, तो हम YouTube में content बनाते हैं, तो हम तो like YouTube studio होता है एक, वहाँ पे I check all the metrics की कितने % लोग are liking the content, कितने % are disliking. So वहाँ पे मैंने अपना एक बार सेट किया हुआ है कि मिनिमम मेरे को जितने भी लाइक्स आएंगे तो दे शुड बी से 98 और 98.5%. मिनिमम इतने % लोगों को पसंद आना चाहिए कंटेंट. उससे अगर नीचे होगा देन आई नीड टू इंट्रोस्पेक्ट कि यार कुछ तो यहाँ पे सही नहीं है. आई नीड टू मे बी करेक्ट माई पाथ और समथिंग. सो दैट इज़ हाउ आई, मतलब ठीक है नेगेटिविटी में आप जा सकते हो जाने को, बट आई डोंट थिंक दिस पॉइंट टू इट.
आई विल एक्चुअली से कि ये चीज़ हर प्रोफेशन में है. आप कोई लॉयर पकड़ लो, आपका अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस नहीं रहा, आप बोलोगे यार लॉयर होते ही ऐसे, ठीक है. अगर आप किसी डॉक्टर के पास गए, किसी सीए के पास भी गए, राइट, तो ऐसे ही अगर किसी का एक्सपीरियंस किसी क्रिएटर के साथ बुरा हो जाता है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल कोई ऐसा ब्रांड प्रमोट कर दिया जो आगे जाके इश्यूज हो गए उसमें, तो आप आप क्या, मतलब सॉरी नॉट यू बट ऑन अ जनरल नोट मैं भी होती तो मुझे भी यही लगता कि अरे यार ये तो सब ऐसे ही कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज एक वो जनरल परसेप्शन बन जाता है. दूसरी चीज़, हम ये भूल जाते हैं कि कोई क्रिएटर है या कोई सेलिब्रिटी भी है, इवेंचुअली वो एक इंसान है, और अगर वो काम कर रहा है तो वो मिस्टेक्स करेगा, ठीक है. बट दिस इज़ आर रिस्पॉन्स, दिस इज समथिंग दैट वी हैव टू टेक, बिकॉज अगर हम पब्लिक के सामने आ रहे हैं और कोई हमें क्रिटिसिज्म कर रहा है और ये बोल रहा है कि अरे सारे ही तुम लोग ऐसे हो, इट्स ऑन अस कि हमें वो झेलना पड़ेगा. अभी आज की डेट में सब लोग बोल रहे हैं अरे बॉलीवुड गंदी पिक्चरें बनाता है. गंदी नहीं बनाता, कुछ कुछ अच्छी भी बनाता है, बट वही है कि हम सारे उसी के उसमें कैटेगराइज कर देते हैं. तो हाँ, वो आई थिंक सबको अपने अंदर पता है कि ये चीज़ होगी, जनरलाइजेशन होएगी, एंड इवेंचुअली उनकी जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी अपनी कम्युनिटी की तरफ है कि इनको ना लगे कि मैं फेक हूँ, या इनको ना लगे कि ये कुछ भी बोल रही है या कुछ भी बना रही है. सो आई थिंक वो जनरलाइजेशन वाला एस्पेक्ट यूजुअली आ जाता है. जेलिसी, आई डोंट थिंक जेलिसी है. हाँ, ये ज़रूर होता है कि अरे यार ये तो मैं गूगल पे पढ़ के भी समझ लेती, वो है, डेफिनेटली है, और वो सबके साथ होगा, राइट. अगर अभी भी मैं आपको कुछ बता रही हूँ, ये चीज़ आप गूगल कर सकते थे, बट इट्स ऑल अबाउट इंटरैक्टिंग विद ईच अदर. तो या, दिस इज़ माई ओपिनियन. थैंक यू.
I have one question here. I truly agree with what Himani said, that we need to upskill ourselves, and especially in the case of finance content, you need to be very that discipline that whatever you're delivering, that is up to the mark. My question is, does number of videos matters? How many videos can be? It can be, like you said, in a one go I used to shoot 50 videos. Now it came down to once in a week, then once in a day. So that number of videos matters in case of finance contents. या कितने भी बनाए हैं?
I would say both yes and no. Depends on the type of content that you're making. If it's a very generic type of content, कि यार इंश्योरेंस की बात भी कर रहे हो, क्रेडिट कार्ड की बात भी कर रहे हो, टैक्स की बात भी कर रहे हो, and you know you're talking about a number of topics, and you have huge competition in each topic, then I would say yes, you should maybe try to cover as much as possible, and number of videos may become a factor in that. But if you have a very niche community only talking about taxation, and you say put in a lot of effort for one video कि यार इस कस्टमर का हमने ऐसे किया था, थोड़ा ट्रिकी केस था, उसको वैसे कवर किया था, and audience can see that effort in your videos. If it's a very niche, high quality video, then maybe just number of videos would do. And also, if you make like YouTube के जो लंबी videos बनाते हो, you can always chop that videos out in short videos and you can keep posting the short videos. So that takes care of the number of videos. आप एक लंबी video बनाओ, उससे 10 videos cover हो जाएंगी.
Very interesting point, Shavir, because I was going to, when Himani spoke about upskilling, I feel after 2023, no discussion is complete without talking about AI. And when Shavir said that you can chop up the bigger videos into shorter videos, I can name at least 3 tools that do that for you automatically, where they would themselves, so you put in that long form video in that tool, the tool will analyze what parts of the video are the most catchy and they would create shorts for you. All you have to do is upload it. So that is something that I feel just simplifies life. And specifically coming to AI, because it is already having big ramifications across all kinds of industries. I think the 2 best use cases that I have come across are, one is, so since a room full of CAs, detecting financial fraud, right? So when people think of ChatGPT, so how many of you here have an account with ChatGPT? Yeah. How many of you have a paid account with ChatGPT? You're paying $20 a month. So the thing is, almost the entire room raised their hand when I asked how many people are using ChatGPT, and there were about 5 hands when I asked about the paid version, right? So when we think of ChatGPT, we are not just interacting with the chatbot, right? We are not just asking it to write an email. That's the very surface level application of it. But a deeper applications, again, since a room full of CAs is detecting financial fraud, right? You put in certain parameters and GPT itself can detect what is happening much better than any human. And if you know your numbers as an accountant, it's easier for you to work with the technology. So that's one. And the second thing, and I'm coming to my question with this, is the second sort of big application of ChatGPT that I have come across is there's a Indian NGO called OpenNyai, and it has created this tool called Jugalbandi. So with Jugalbandi, you can interact with any Indian language on a WhatsApp chatbot. The application of this is that some remote area of India where literacy is low, there is no media, people can converse in their local language. People who don't have any other, say, form of education, they only know their mother tongue. Government schemes don't reach to them. And through a WhatsApp voice note, they can know more about government schemes that can help them sort of figure out which ones are applicable to them, which ones can be helpful. So wide-ranging applications. I would love to know, again, all of you, what you think about how this is going to, again, it's a very wide-ranging question because nobody knows, right, what's going to happen. But how do you, think this is going to affect you as people in your own individual professions, number one? And number two, how can, again, startups work with this emerging technology and creators to have a bigger impact with what they're doing?
So there are multiple things, multiple applications of AI. It can help you write faster. That's the obvious use case. It can help you draft better mails. It can help you make better content. One, I think this company Grow has done it. They have introduced a AI anchor who's sort of trained on their existing data. Now, AI is coming for our jobs also. This is, again, all of this are, I think, surface level applications. 2 applications I would specifically want to talk about. So one is, so I was in banking for 4 years. And वहाँ पे क्या होता था यार, कोई भी बड़ा लोन देने से पहले ना एक क्रेडिट नोट बनता था. आई एम श्योर मोस्ट ऑफ यू आर अवेयर ऑफ दिस. और वो क्रेडिट नोट बनने के लिए 1 महीना लगता था. इंफॉर्मेशन यूज टू कम फ्रॉम द कंपनी और उसके बेसिस पे क्रेडिट नोट बनता था. आई थिंक यूजिंग AI, दैट क्रेडिट नोट, इफ all the information is there, that credit note can be prepared within seconds. और बैंक का काम इतना easy हो सकता है, लोन प्रोसेसिंग टाइम पूरा जो कि अभी 1 महीना 2 महीना हो सकता है, that can reduce to seconds or minutes. I think that is one application. The other application is stock analysis. So there is this company called FinChat, not promoting the company here or anything. So what that does is it analyzes the data, the public data. Suppose आपने पूछा यार बजाज का स्टॉक कैसा कर रहा है, so it will analyze Bajaj's data over the past 3 years, सारी financial statements, जो भी उनके पब्लिक में एड्रेसेस हुए हैं, जितनी भी जर्नल मीटिंग्स हुई हैं, पूरा डेटा एनालाइज करके बताएगा कि बजाज में ये प्रोडक्ट है, दिस इज डूइंग वेरी वेल, दिस इज व्हाट दे आर फोकसिंग ऑन नाउ, जोग्राफिकली एक्सपैंड करने का देख रहे हैं. इट विल गिव यू ऑल द क्वालिटेटिव डेटा एंड यू डोंट हैव टू go through any financial statement or anything. I think that is another cool case of ChatGPT or AI.
मैं तो बहुत एक्साइटेड हूँ एआई के लिए, बिकॉज मुझे ये पोटेंशियल दिख रही है, जो आपको भी दिख रही होगी. बहुत वर्चुअल इन्फ्लुएंसर्स आ गए हैं, राइट? एंड द पॉइंट इज दैट अ पर्सन, 40-year-old वुमन कैन बिकम अ 20-year-old गर्ल, एंड जो भी उनको कंटेंट बनाना है वो उस पोर्ट्रेयल में बना सकते हैं. ठीक है, तो एक तरीके से कंटेंट क्रिएशन का एक बैरियर था, सिर्फ एक ही बैरियर था कि किसी को शर्म आती है वीडियो बनाने में, कि किसी को पब्लिक के सामने कुछ नहीं, मतलब अपना फेस नहीं दिखाना या वो नहीं करना. वो एआई से ख़त्म हो जाएगा एंड ऑलरेडी हो रहा है. अभी आप यूट्यूब शॉर्ट्स देखोगे या इंस्टाग्राम रील्स देखोगे, कितने सारे वर्चुअल इन्फ्लुएंसर्स हैं जो इस पर काम कर रहे हैं एंड दे आर एक्चुअली डूइंग गुड. तो हाँ, मैं इसको अभी कंटेंट के लिए इतना यूज़ नहीं करती, क्योंकि मैं सिर्फ चैट जीपीटी या एक दो और एडिटिंग के टूल्स यूज़ करती हूँ, सबटाइटल वगैरह. तो मैं उसको इतना ट्रस्ट नहीं कर पाती अभी कि हाँ चैट जीपीटी ने, अगर चैट जीपीटी मुझे कुछ बताता है, मैं उसको इतना बड़ा प्रॉम्प्ट मुझे लिख के देना पड़ेगा ताकि वो मुझे कुछ स्पेसिफिक जो मुझे चाहिए वो मुझे बताए, फिर उसको मुझे वेरीफाई करना पड़ेगा. इससे बेटर है कि मैं वो चीज़ खुद ही बना लूँ. तो हाँ, ये चीज़ मुझे पोटेंशियल बहुत अच्छी दिखती है कि कोई भी कुछ भी कर सकता है. एंड वो चीज़ लाइक ही सेड, दे आर कमिंग फॉर आवर जॉब्स एंड योर्स टू. बट या, दिस इज माय ओपिनियन.
And that's what they say, right? You wouldn't lose your job to AI, but you'd lose your job to someone who knows how to use AI. So I think that's at the crux of it. I'm going to open it up to questions in just a bit, but I have something that I want to ask Shavir specifically. So Shavir creates content in lots of Indian regional languages. And I feel that's a great initiative simply because it reaches the people who might need it the most, right? Because good content otherwise doesn't get translated or made in regional languages as much as it say does in the popular ones, right? English, Hindi. So Shavir, what I want to know is, since you're making content in so many languages, what is the kind of the response that you see in different languages, right? Because one language is more predominant in one part of India, and if you are say seeing higher growth in say a region that is predominantly Kannada speaking, for example, or Marathi speaking, right? Then something specific is happening in that region. So would love to know how that is happening, and secondly, the surprising insights that you have come across when you're looking at this data.
Sure. I would say our predominant languages that we are creating content is Punjabi, Bangla, Kannada we stopped making some time back. Marathi we have recently launched. So I would say in Punjabi and Kannada, these are the two predominant, and there are very obvious trends on the piece of content and the kind of platform the content is working on. मैं आपको दोनों बताता हूँ. एक तो जैसे जो कंटेंट मेन हिंदी इंग्लिश में चल रहा है वो कंटेंट तो मोस्टली अच्छा करेगा ही रीजनल में, दैट इज गिवन. बट सरप्राइजिंगली पंजाब में जैसे एजुकेशन की बात करो या बाहर जाने की बात करो, बिकॉज लॉट ऑफ पीपल आर गोइंग टू कैनेडा, सो वहाँ पे अगर वो बात करो तो दैट स्टिक्स. बांग्ला में पीपल आर वेरी क्यूरियस टू लर्न अबाउट स्टॉक मार्केट, म्यूचुअल फंड कौन से अच्छे हैं, स्टॉक में कैसे बेस्ट डीमैट अकाउंट, तो बांग्ला में उस टाइप का कंटेंट बहुत चलता है. एंड सेकेंडली आई वॉज वेरी शॉक टू सी कि पंजाब में पीपल आर फॉलोइंग मोर ऑन फेसबुक देन ऑन इंस्टाग्राम. सो वहाँ के लोग अभी भी फेसबुक यूज़ कर रहे हैं. सेम गोज फॉर बांग्ला, एंड आई एम गेसिंग द सेम गोज फॉर मराठी ऑल्सो. मराठी अभी समझ में आएगा थोड़ी देर में. तो दैट वॉज वन शॉकिंग फैक्ट. एंड द अदर शॉकिंग फैक्ट इज वहाँ पे अपार्ट फ्रॉम इंस्टाग्राम, यूट्यूब एंड फेसबुक, देर आर अदर प्लेटफॉर्म्स लाइक मौज, जोश. सो हमारा कंटेंट वहाँ पे भी जाता है. वहाँ पे भी वी हैव बीन एबल टू बिल्ड अ वेरी गुड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. like on each platform we have more than 100K followers. So that was another shocking fact to me. Facebook पे main Facebook page we have been posting content for 2 years now. वहाँ पे कोई ज़्यादा attraction नहीं दिखा because I'm guessing most of the people have migrated from Facebook to Instagram. But that is not the case with Punjabi and Bangla. So that was very shocking to me.
I find it quite fascinating about how this distribution plays out, and that could be very valuable data for people looking to invest in companies based in different regions or products created specifically for different audiences, right? I'll keep my promise. No, one of you, yeah, there you go. You had raised your hand earlier as well, so we'll take some questions.
I wanted to ask like how we as students can start content creation so that we can grow early, and like how we learn about our articleship phase. So how can we convey to our other people?
देखो बहुत सिंपल सी बात है. If you have urge and you genuinely want to start content creation, you should obviously start. But you should not start content creation just because it is fancy right now. See, if you remember 1980s kids, I think अभी यहाँ पे इतने हैं नहीं, but 1980s kids would obviously remember कि एस्ट्रोनॉट बनना था सबको अचानक से. अगर वहाँ पे कोई भी पैदा हुआ था ना, if someone was born in 1975 से 80 के बीच में, everyone wanted to become astronaut because astronaut famous हो रहे थे. So यहाँ पे पर्पस एस्ट्रोनॉट बनने का नहीं है, पर्पस है फेमस होने का. इन द सेम वे राइट नाउ पर्पस कंटेंट क्रिएटर बनने का नहीं है, पर्पस है फेमस होने का. So you have to define your purpose. If your purpose is to become famous, then probably you should rethink it. कि क्या तुम्हें passion है क्या? But yes, if you genuinely want to start, there are 3 type of content which you can make specifically in your articleship days, which are doing good on YouTube right now or Instagram right now. One is vlogs. क्योंकि internship वाले vlogs बहुत अच्छे चल रहे हैं, क्योंकि life तुम्हारी बहुत मजेदार होती है. There is daily something or the other which is happening. You are going to meet new clients. You are going for your review. You are getting a rating. There's a birthday, there's a first time teammate which is happening. So you can make a vlog out of it. Vlog should be below 50 seconds. Short kind of vlogs वो बहुत अच्छे चल रहे हैं. Second, कुशल, for example, कुशल है यहाँ पे. कुशल क्या करता है? वो सिर्फ education के around content बनाता है and podcast भी बना रहा है. I think right now YouTube is promoting podcast. So if you can make podcast around your journey, you need not have someone else to interview every time. Probably कभी आप self podcast भी बना सकते हो कि यार ये kind of podcast conversation है. I'll sit down, relax and discuss everything कि क्या होता है internship के पहले साल में, पहले महीने में, पहले दिन पे. So you can make a detailed video out of it. This is the second type of content which can work. Third type of content जो CA में या internship में work कर सकता है, that is the fancy part. Because for example, if you are working in Big Fours, you will have a luxury office. You can probably वॉक इन योर ऑफिस. मैंने अभी यही बोला था कि मेरे को ऐसा कुछ कंटेंट बनाना है अब कि यार मैं चलूं और लोग देखें और मेरे को मजा आया, बोलना भी छोड़ो. सो इन द सेम वे प्रोबेबली यू कैन पुट आउट यूजफुल कंटेंट ऑन स्क्रीन, और आप वहां पे डिफरेंट जगह जा रहे हो. आपके इफ यू आर इन बिग फोर्स, प्रोबेबली आपके ऑफिस सारे के सारे फैंसीज है, चाहे वो क्लाइंट फेसिंग हो चाहे आपके खुद के हो. तो यहाँ पे यू कैन रोम अराउंड इन ऑफिस एंड मेक सम नॉर्मल वीडियोस. एंड स्पेशली यू आर फीमेल, सो वो आपको एक एडिड एडवांटेज भी है इन दैट फील्ड कि आपको बाय देखो, एक एस्थेटिक्स अच्छे होने बहुत जरूरी होते हैं. लड़कों में एस्थेटिक्स अच्छे होने में बहुत मेहनत लगती है. सही कह रहा हूं मैं? यार देखो, मैं अब होता क्या, चलो वहां पे नहीं जाते, बट ठीक है. बट यहाँ पे आई थिंक जितने भी बॉयज होंगे वो इस चीज को मानेंगे कि एक एडिड एडवांटेज होता है कि हम में एलिगेंस होती है. अब विमेन में होती है एलिगेंस, हम उसका क्या करें यार, हम कहाँ से लाए? हमें सीखनी पड़ती है, उसके लिए शादी करनी पड़ती है. शादी के बाद हम में एलिगेंस आती है, बिकॉज हमारे पास वी हैव अ विमेन हु इज टेकिंग केयर ऑफ अस इन अ वे कि भाई तुम एलिगेंट बनो. और विमेन में आई थिंक इट्स अ एडेड एडवांटेज कि उनमें एलिगेंस बाय गॉड ग्रेस हमेशा रहती है. दे आर वेरी एलिगेंट इन दैट मैटर, दे आर वेरी केयरिंग इन दैट मैटर कि वो चलते भी तो हम तो चलेंगे भी, हमारी चाल यहाँ पे दिखना, सबकी चाल लगाओगे, सबकी अलग आएगी. यहाँ पे जितने भी इंटर्न्स बैठे हैं ना पीछे, हर एक की चाल अलग आएगी. और फिर गर्ल्स को चलाओ, दे विल वॉक इन अ वेरी सोफिस्टिकेटेड मैनर. सो प्रोबेबली दैट इज द एडवांटेज दे हैव कि दे नो हाउ टू कैरी देमसेल्फ वेल. हम लोग भी सीख रहे हैं, मैं नहीं कह रहा कि हम लोग पीछे, हम लोग भी सीख रहे हैं, बट इनके पास एडवांटेज है तो हम मान लेते हैं. इट्स ओके, वी आर लर्निंग फ्रॉम देम. सो या
आई डोंट थिंक सो, बिकॉज अगर लड़कियों में ग्रेस है, वैसे तो वो जनरलाइजेशन है, बिकॉज नहीं हो ज़रूरी है क्या हर लड़की में ग्रेस होगा, कुछ टॉम्बॉइश भी होते हैं और अपना अपना एक नेचर होता है जो हमें जेंडर से एसोसिएट नहीं करना चाहिए, बट मे बी ऐसा हो सकता है कि काफ़ी लड़कियों में वो ग्रेस है, बट देन काफ़ी लड़कियां अंडर कॉन्फिडेंट भी होती हैं, लड़के इतने अंडर कॉन्फिडेंट नहीं होते। आई हैव सीन कि शुरू में जब क्रिएटर्स बने थे लड़कियां मोस्टली फैशन या उसमें थी, बट अभी भी आप देखोगे बहुत सारे क्रिएटर्स हैं मेल्स हु आर बैचलर्स, दे नो हाउ टू टॉक एंड दे हैव ग्रेस, राइट? तो मतलब ये मेरा पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू
नहीं
है।
नहीं, your point of view is, I have two rules in life. First, never argue. Second, if she's a girl, never even dare to speak anything. It's okay.
Again,
She's always right.
That's based on gender again, I would say.
Never argue.
नहीं नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है ऐसा कुछ नहीं है। मैं बस कह रही हूँ कि क्या है ना, अभी आप बोलोगे तो सबको लगेगा अरे सब लड़की में ग्रेस है, अगर कोई लड़की बढ़ेगी तो वो उन्हें बोलेंगे तुम्हारे पास एडवांटेज है इसलिए तुम आगे बढ़ गई, एंड दैट हैपेंस इन जॉब्स एज वेल। आई एम नॉट सेइंग दिस हैपेंस इन दिस इंडस्ट्री, वो हर जॉब में भी होता है जिसमें बोलते हैं कि अरे हाँ तू अच्छे से कपड़े पहन के आती है, वो करती है इसलिए तू आगे बढ़ गई लाइफ में, या तेरी में केस है या वट एवर। बट जेंडर बेस्ड कभी भी किसी के ऊपर ओपिनियन नहीं डालना चाहिए, क्योंकि लिटरली मैं आपको बता रही हूँ हर बंदे का नेचर अलग होता है। मेरे में इतनी ग्रेस नहीं है, मतलब मैं लिटरली मेरे को प्रिपेयर होना पड़ता है कि ऐसे चलना है या वैसे करना है, बिकॉज दैट इज़ नॉट नेचर, राइट? दैट इज़ नॉट हाउ माई पेरेंट्स ब्रॉट मी अप। उनको लगा कि हमारा बेटा नहीं है, इसी को बेटा बना देते हैं। तो हाँ, मतलब मुझे भी आर्ग्यू करना पसंद नहीं है बिल्कुल भी, लेकिन यू हैव टू स्पीक फॉर योर सेल्फ। इट्स नॉट लाइक नॉट आर्ग्यू क्योंकि चलो बोलने दो, स्पीक फॉर योर सेल्फ। और हाँ, अगर आपको कंटेंट बनाना है, दैट इज़ मतलब मेरी एक ही टिप है कि आप ये देखो कि आपकी स्ट्रेंथ क्या है, आप रैंडम मत बनाओ, ओके? कि ये चल रहा है, ये चल रहा है, मैं ये बना, बिकॉज वो आपको पूरे टाइम करना पड़ेगा आगे, राइट? आपने सीए किया, आप डॉक्टर भी बन सकते थे, आपने सीए किया क्योंकि आपको उसमें इंटरेस्ट है। तो वीडियोस भी उस तरीके के बनाओ जिसमें आपको इंटरेस्ट हो और वो एक गैप हो इंडस्ट्री में। अगर वो एक गैप नहीं है, वो ऑलरेडी बाकी लोग कर रहे हैं, तो फिर आपको बहुत ज़्यादा टाइम लगेगा उस लेवल तक पहुंचने में। तो अगर आपको जल्दी पिकअप करना है, फाइंड अ गैप। जैसे हम रिसर्च करते हैं ना, वैसे ही कोई डिजर्टेशन है उसमें हम गैप फाइंड करते हैं, फाइंड अ गैप एंड देन क्रिएट कंटेंट। जितना कंटेंट बना सकते हो उतना बनाओ, बिकॉज कंटेंट इज नॉट अबाउट टॉपिक, इट इज ऑल्सो अबाउट वीडियोग्राफी, फोटोग्राफी, हाउ टू स्पीक, हाउ टू क्रिएट अ स्क्रिप्ट एक्सेट्रा। तो हाँ, आई वोंट टेक मच टाइम, थैंक यू।
I have a question.
जस्ट वन पॉइंट टू ऐड। अगर आपको वीडियो नहीं करनी, ऑडियो करो, ऑडियो में पॉडकास्ट करो। ऑडियो नहीं करना तो राइट करो, राइट ऑन लिंक्डइन, राइट योर ब्लॉग्स, कुछ भी करो बट कंटेंट बनाओ।
Yeah, and one quick point to add to what Himani said. There was this study conducted where when you're applying for jobs, right, let's say there are 10 requirements that you need to have to even be eligible. So they looked at women applying, they looked at men applying. Yeah. Now I don't have the exact numbers in my mind, but the difference was stark, but I'll tell you. So let's say 90% of the men who did not fit the 10 requirements still ended up applying because confidence of I don't know what the reason is, but that tells you a lot. Whereas women, even if they had more qualifications ticked off than men of the same profile, they wouldn't apply because they thought they were underqualified. And very wide scale study conducted specifically for two genders, and that tells you a lot, right, about how gender.
अब आप हमारे men
roles
के
play.
अगेंस्ट में डिस्क्रिमिनेशन कर रहे हो। Just on a lighter note.
So we'll take one more question, and
Yeah. See, we are not into entertainment industry. We are into the finance industry. And if we want to be a content creator, then how does it help us in our practice? Because there will be a limited followers, limited views in that. So we will end up becoming YouTuber, or I'm a practicing chartered accountant. So how it will help us? It will generate business for us, or means I'll generate income through by paid partnership or views and all that.
क्रेजी कोबरा जानते हो आप चैनल? No. It's a Jodhpur based channel. CA ही चलाते हैं, talking about CA and doing crazy stuff. बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं. So ये मत बोलो आपको views कमाएंगे या कमाएंगे because इसकी अभी demand है. I'll tell you one more channel. Legal Baba, you know? It's a amazing channel making videos only on law. Labor law advisor. So that channel started purely talking about labor laws. Now they have diversified their content, but they started purely talking about labor laws and they became big. See कितना niche है, सिर्फ labor law के बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ मैं, PF, PPF, ESI, and I built an audience. अभी उनके 4 million plus followers if I'm not wrong. So है बहुत, बस आप be specific और छोड़ना नहीं होता है क्या? हम अपनी गाड़ी बहुत जल्दी चेंज करते हैं. अगर इस रो में हमें लगता है कि अरे बहुत भीड़ हो गई, हम दूसरे में जाते हैं ऑन एयरपोर्ट, पता चलता है कि यार फिर हमारी लाइन पहले आ गई. सो यू विल हैव टू स्टिक ऑन व्हाट यू आर डूइंग, बट एवरीथिंग वर्क्स. आपके लिए नहीं किया, प्रोबेबली थोड़ा टाइम मांग रहा है लाइफ. That's it. This is what my perspective is.
My question is, they are generating income through that content, or means they are generating the lead from that content?
Both.
They are doing actual business also, or they are just content creator?
Both. First channel जो मैंने बात किया, they are 100% in their practice, legal practice कर रहे हैं, अपनी उस CA की practice कर रहे हैं, and they are generating. See, as a CA you can't promote yourself, but you can put out content. And if someone want to see your content and feel that you are relevant, they'll directly and indirectly reach out to you. So this way they are generating their leads, and now they are even launching a national platform around CA return filing. Return filing बहुत easy है. They'll charge like 999 rupees, and they are launching a national platform, and it will be hit on first day because they have the people who are waiting for it. So you will have multiple sources, but you have to first build on to that source. On the very first day, if you go out, make a video and ask people कि अरे तुम्हें कुछ जरूरत हो तो मेरे पास आ जाना, so people will feel कि यार अभी तुमने कुछ वैल्यू ऐड नहीं करी. फर्स्ट ऐड इतना दो ना लाइफ में, इतना दो, फिर धीरे से आके एक वीडियो में बोलो कि यार चाहिए तो आ जाना, आई एम नॉट फोर्सिंग यू. देन सी मैजिक हैपेंस व्हेन यू गिव मोर देन यू आर एक्सपेक्टिंग आउट इन रिटर्न.
सर मेरा एडवाइस ना ये रहेगा, अगर आप कंटेंट इसलिए कर रहे हो क्योंकि आपको ज़्यादा बिजनेस चाहिए, तो आप बहुत इम्पेशेंट हो जाओगे फॉर श्योर. 6 महीने में इम्पेशेंट हो जाओगे, आपको लगेगा यार इतना कंटेंट बनाया, अभी तक कुछ भी नहीं हुआ उसका. तो मेरा एडवाइस ये रहेगा, अगर आप कंटेंट बना रहे हो ना, कम से कम एक साथ ये सोचो कि कुछ बिजनेस नहीं आएगा यहाँ से. ये वो जगह है जहाँ पे मेरे को अपने थॉट्स गैदर करने हैं. आप कंटेंट वो सोच के बनाओ कि ये एक इन्फॉर्मेशन ऐसा है जहाँ पे सारी नॉलेज इकट्ठी हो रही है और मैं भी अपडेट कर रहा हूँ धीरे धीरे. आप ये सोच के बनाओ, तब वो एक दिन आएगा ऐसा जब आपका कंटेंट चलेगा और बिजनेस भी आएगा, सब कुछ.
Okay, we're now closing our question and answer round. I'm sorry, sir, we can't take any questions anymore. Okay, it's been a wonderful event and a session. How content creators are shaping the startup world, and how startups are now using the power of content creation to get their word out, which tells us how powerful the industry is getting by each second. Okay, the collaboration between both of them, the startup world and the content creators, is going to increase, and we are here to witness the series. Okay, now we are facilitating all of our panelists on the stage. Can we have the mementos around the stage now? I'd request CA Dheeraj Khandelwal to come on the stage. First off, the memento will be given to Udyan Adhye. Can we please have a round of applause for the panelists here? Thank you. Second off, we are facilitating Mr. Anant Ladha. Third memento for the session goes to Shavir Bansal. Okay, last but not the least, the last memento goes to Miss Himani Chaudhary. I'd request all of our panelists to be seated. For photograph first. To wrap up the session, I'd like to call CA Vikas Jain, a Regional Council Member ICAI, to extend a vote of thanks.
Thank you very much. We had a wonderful deliberation, I would say, and content writing and all these things we have discussed a lot. And content writing is nothing but, I would say, it's like a behavioral science which we need to know first. And it's just, we can compare with the way it is actually we are doing it in day-to-day life, whatever we are doing. The only thing is it is being done in the virtual mode or for the social media. Otherwise, the life remains the same. So we need to just understand, or we need to perceive that what the other people wants. And if we can do that, then absolutely we can be good, great content writer. We have discussed various things today, like that of integrity, branding, upskilling. All these things are very, very much important in our personal lives as well, or professional lives. If we can really work on all these things, we are going to do wonders. May it be personal life, may it be professional life, or may it be content creation. Thanks a lot for the wonderful deliberation. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the end of the Startup Sphere 2023 hosted by ICAI in Mumbai. We hope this event has been a valuable experience for all of you. On behalf of ICAI, I would like to thank all of the panelists and the guests for attending the event with us. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights with us. Now we expect all of you. We hope we see you on day 2 at the same place. This is your host, Krisha Jain, signing off. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead.